G'day, battlers. We are live for the Silph Arena 2022 World Championships, kicking it off in the prelims with one of the 4 groups of battlers facing off to find themselves a spot in the World Championship Grand Finals next weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit more, how the format's going to work, how this tournament is sort of running. But first off, I'm PvP Steve, and I'd like to introduce to you my lovely co-caster here and Pokemon Go PvP legend, the 6'4 Ninja. But 6'4, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. It's a pleasure to be here helping cast the Silph Worlds preliminaries. The format is very interesting, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing how these battlers on the kind of the big stage here in Silph navigate these kind of ever-changing matchups.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to put it. So for those who are not familiar, essentially there are 32 battlers that have qualified for the Silph Arena World Championship preliminaries, and that's through either becoming the Continental Champion through the Continentals, through high global rank, so some of the top ranked battlers in the world, and then also from high performance in the Continentals. And it was a little bit based on like Continentals with more participants got more entrance into these World Championships. North America had more competitors than APAC, so more North American continental competitors were brought into the World Championships in that sort of stead. Now, I will introduce our sort of competitors for this group, and also simultaneously sort of introduce the sort of not confusing format, but there's definitely a lot going on in this format. So let's take a quick little look here at this sort of graphic here. This is a round robin format where every battler is going to face every other battler in the tournament, but it is not that simple because the meta is going to change through the tournament. You can see that the first 3 rounds have one icon, and that is the Silph Obsidian Cups logo. So they're going to be playing in the Obsidian Cup. Rounds 4 and 5 are going to be in the Glacial Cup, and rounds 6 and 7 are going to be in the Brawler Cup. So there's going to be 3 different metas that they've had to prepare for, bring teams in for, and sort of figure out how they're going to play. And now, unfortunately, we do have 8 competitors here. Benja Pro, unfortunately, did have to drop out, so we are only going with 7 competitors here. But quickly giving you a little bit of an intro to each competitor here, just going down the list. We have JayzFan55, number 5 on the Silph leaderboard at the end of the Silph Arena season, and 3rd in North America. One of the best battlers in the world for sure. We have Jartavia, number 110 on the Silph leaderboard from Costa Rica. Definitely a very strong battler and potentially the underdog of the tournament as the only elite ranked player in the Silph Arena. We then have, skipping over Benja Pro, we have Azeyrox, who is the APAC Continental Champion, recently swept through the APAC Continentals to land themselves that Continental Championship title, and coming in from India, definitely one of the best, I believe number 1 on the India leaderboards as well. We have Leonardo77, who actually finished number 1 on the Silph Arena leaderboard. So literally top of the pack. Like, this is the top dog coming in to really show why they are the best of the best, why they managed to beat them all to be that number 1. We then have Soyer98, also from Costa Rica, finishing at number 9 on the Silph Arena leaderboard. So definitely also an incredibly strong battler. Second last, we've got Nesabethan coming in from the UK, finished number 47 on the Silph leaderboard with number 3 in the UK, only behind not only Leonardo, who was number 1 on the UK leaderboard, but Maxi 1 million P, the last battler of the group, who was number 2 in the UK and number 24 on the final Silph Arena leaderboards. So managed to actually get the top 3. UK
1, 2, and 3 from UK, yeah.
So, and we've got 2 battlers from Costa Rica as well. So we've definitely got a lot of representation from those 2 countries in particular. But we won't be coming back to this graphic in particular. We'll just be sort of going through the battles. And in saying that, because there are a lot of battles here, we're not going to be able to watch every single set of 3 from every single one of these battlers, because that would be, well, we'd be here for quite some time, and I don't think me or the 6'4 Ninja has the lung capacity to speak for that length of time. So what we're going to be doing through this tournament is we're going to be taking a look at one battle from every single matchup. So for example, in that top left, we have JayzFan versus C Leonardo. We're going to be seeing one match from that that battle, in most cases, that has been selected by the winner. So the winner wants to sort of showcase the most hype battle from that round, from that matchup. And so that's the one that we will be taking a look at. We won't be spoiling results, we'll be finding out as we go, and we'll see the results sort of unfold as we sort of progress through the tournament. But with all of that intro out of the way, I think we might be ready to potentially get into some battles. What do you think, Ninja?
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to see these high-level battlers compete. And so if we can jump into the battles, let's do it.
All right, let's take a look at the first two teams we've got going into the Obsidian Cup. We have Azeyrox, the APAC Continental Champion, versus Maxi, that second in the UK battler. And we've got some pretty similar teams here, Ninja.
Yeah, looking at the Silph usage data for these cups, it was a very, very top-heavy cup with almost most teams having that Escavalier, that Dragalge, and then at least one Dark type. We see that on both of these teams here, Escav, Dragalge, both of them rocking that Umbreon as a Dark type, a secondary Dark type on Maxi's team with that Sableye, and then complementing out with a double, a normal type with some fighting damage, and a Dragonair, just kind of a good generalist. A second Dragon maybe to run some kind of ABB or other kind of mind gamey strat with that Dragalge on their team. And then Azeyrox team rounding out with that Milotic, an interesting pick because the moveset flexibility there could be Waterfall, could be Dragon Tail. Waterfall would help you more with that Escavalier matchup. Dragon Tail would help more with those other dragons. So it'd be interesting to see if they end up bringing that and what moveset they had. And then the Coffin, Coffagrigus, and Araquanid rounding out their team. Just another solid general, a pretty good anti-dark type with all that bug damage. So an interesting pickup there to kind of have a second thing to kind of check that Umbreon so it's not just Escavalier. Because Escavalier isn't even that hard to check to Umbreon in like the ones, for example.
Yeah, I mean, you've really hit the nail on the head there. And the Obsidian Cup, I mean, Araquanid actually wasn't available back when the Obsidian Cup originally came to the Silph Arena. So it's sort of this sort of new introduction that's sort of able to counter those dark types that were so incredibly heavy, alongside that double as well. Also a very new addition who's got access to that counter damage that can really sort of add up onto Umbreons, for example, even though it will be taking a fair amount from that foul play. But overall, this was definitely the sort of Umbreon, Sableye, Escavalier, Dragalge Cup. And we may be seeing a fair bit of that as we pass through here. Now, unfortunately, Azeyrox did not upload their footage before the stream, so we'll only be watching the one perspective from Maxis for this round. But let's dive into it, and Ninja, take us away with the very first battle of the entire Silph Arena World Championship circuit.
All right, let's go. What's Maxi bringing in game one?
Hello? There we go.
Maxi loading in here with a Sableye lead into Dragalge. This is a pretty neutral matchup, all neutral damage going both ways. The Dragon Tail a little bit more fast move pressure than Shadow Claw. The Shadow Claw is going to enable the Sableye to kind of outpace the Dragalge here. That was not enough Dragon Tails for an outrage, so it's just being Aqua Tail coming in. And so Maxi opts to not shield this first move.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting matchup where Sableye and Dragalge can actually both win the one shield depending on IVs. It's a little bit dependent in that regard. So we're going to see this foul play go through. We're going to sort of find out if one of them is going to sort of play chicken. Or no, we're going to see Maxi swap out into the mirror at Dragalge and see an Escavalier come out, which is quite scary for Dragalge, as Drill Run is definitely a really hard-hitting move. Takes out like 2/3 of Dragalge's health, which it does not want to take at all.
Yes, and Maxi recognizing here, though, that there's an Escavalier. It's very strong in this cup. His opponent likely to have brought it, and he has that double in the back also. So needed to get that Escavalier out while his Sableye is still alive to try to save that double from a counter damage fate. And the Dragalge here able to outpace a little bit, 12 turns to each of these Aqua Tails, and it takes the Escavalier 14 and then 12 turns to get to its move. So able to get off these two Aqua Tails before the Escavalier can get to two moves, and likely lets this go, but could go for a farm down here.
Okay. Gonna let it go. Gonna get a little bit of farm on that that Sableye as well. So Sableye gonna be able to get a few Shadow Claws in here, able to get up to the foul play. So whatever comes in is gonna have to face at least one move. Doesn't throw straight away in case it is that Umbreon, but it's actually the Araquanid. So gonna be going for this return here. Won't be able to get to another charge move, so won't be surprised if we see the quick swap out into the double. Now double really hoping
there's a catch
charge here. Oh, there was oh my gosh.
That was the invisible catch there, switching out just as the charge would get thrown, and the camera doesn't even show that it's happening.
Always difficult to see.
Able to catch that return, that's a lot of energy from the Sableye getting thrown into the Dragalge. It was at very low health. It did have an Aqua Tail loaded that it won't be able to throw now, but I think Azeyrox pretty happy about that trade. But now a wild charge coming out from this double.
Yeah, this is going to be a case where Azeyrox really needs to decide whether they want to shield or not. They do not shield, so going to take a fair amount of damage there. Actually, interesting not throwing the shield in that first one. I guess really thinking it was going to be the Body Slam bait, just because the Bubble Beam is going to keep debuffing that attack. Going for the Body Slam bait, and gets the shield out of Maxi, playing out of Azeyrox, sorry, playing perfectly into Maxi's hand here with the last shield coming through. And potentially one Wild Charge might seal the deal from this double, Ninja.
I imagine Double wins CMP in this matchup, so I'm a little interested that he went for throwing this Wild Charge right away instead of switching out to clear that debuff. The Wild Charge definitely lethal with no debuffs. With 2 debuffs, still lethal.
No need for concern. Still able to take it out in the end, but still I was sort of a little bit concerned that double in the back might be running Payback as the second move, but I suppose when you're in the Obsidian meta, there's not much reason to run that dark move when there's so many things running around that you probably don't need to hit with it.
I mean, that is a pretty brave call considering his opponent was running Coffin. I don't know exactly when they had to lock in these moves. Probably before the whole event, right?
They did have to lock in movesets before the tournament.
Probably a little uncomfortable there seeing the Coffin not having payback on the double, but being like, well, I have Sableye, I have Umbreon. They don't know what moves on my double. They're probably not bringing that Coffin. And just a good read there from Maxi and really clean play to set up that bait into Wild Charge finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, as we said before, we're going to be watching one single battle from every single bout. And so Maxi selected this battle as the sort of battle to show. Obviously, seeing that catch from Azeyrox that happened in the background to catch all of the energy from the return. Definitely a really nice catch from the APAC champion there. But I can say that Maxi went ahead to win 2-1 in this round. And at the end of the sort of Obsidian meta, we'll take a look at all of the results and see where we're up to and where all of the battlers are standing. So we'll jump into sort of taking a look at game or round number 2 here, which is going to be Jay's Fan 55 versus CLeonardo77. And once again, these
looking even more similar.
Oh man, it's literally 5 of the same Pokemon with one single difference. Jay's Fan bringing in the Dragonair and Leonardo bringing in the Araquanid. But, you know, I'm sort of happy to see a Fortress. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see Fortress on both teams, honestly. It does the super effective bug bites to those dark types, resists a lot of the damage from these dragons as well, and just kind of chips away at things. You have a few different moveset options on Fortress we didn't used to have with the addition of Rock Tomb to its moveset. Oh, actually, there's a buff of Rock Tomb. And then, so it'll be interesting to see if they're running something like that or the more standard Mirror Shot Earthquake, which would give you the ability to just delete a Dragalge if it's shields down. And just a strong neutral damage. As you can see, no flyers on either team. The Araquanid, the only thing in play here that could resist an Earthquake.
Yeah, so we'll see what they are ending up running, and we'll jump into this one battle and see what they have decided to run. Jay's Fan 55 versus Leonardo, and we have the Sableye Dragalge lead situation, so we sort of know how this goes a little bit. Aquatail and Foul Play both doing a fair amount of damage both ways, and again, it is going to be an IV dependent situation. But again, we see the Dragalge swap out into the Fortress, and we've got the Escavalier coming out to meet it.
And it is that Rock Tomb Fortress here, so we'll be able to get this off. Ooh, just after the Drill Run. Drill Run not lethal here, but you do risk if you eat this Drill Run getting farmed down. So he does throw up that first shield to block that Drill Run damage and goes for the Rock Tomb to debuff this Escavalier, maybe trying to set up a farm down for one of his other Mons if he can get this debuff.
Yeah, we do get the attack debuff on the Escavalier. Really love to see it. This Escavalier is definitely farming up a fair amount of energy before a Fortress can get to the chance to get to its Rock Tomb. Throwing this Draw on here, and looks like C. Leonardo is just happy to sort of let this Fortress go. But no, actually the attack debuff keeps Fortress alive. And
just short of that Rock Tomb. Would always like to throw at least some move in that situation if you can. The Mirror Shot also has a chance at a debuff. But just believing that he could get to that Rock Tomb and coming up one turn short.
Always feels the worst when that happens. But
the Escav was 2 counters short. Sorry, one sec.
No sweat. We've got the Aquatail taking out the Escavalier. Luckily, before a drill run has a chance to sort of come through and even threaten a shield from C. Leonardo. We've got Jacefen bringing back in the Sableye, so we've returned to stability, returned to the lead matchup with Sableye not throwing the return, but throwing the foul play into this Dragalge.
Dragalge is going to live this one and immediately swap out into the Umbreon, and a Dragalge comes in on Jacefen's side here. So just continuing to play out some of these similar neutral matchups. This is going to be an interesting one. Umbreon just wants to go straight for foul plays here. It's the most efficient move they have in this matchup. Dragalge has the choice of baiting with those Aquatails or going for that big outrage nuke. It'll be interesting to see how Jfen plays. Goes straight for the nuke on the first one.
Oh my gosh, this is definitely a risky play. If C. Leonardo burns the shield, that'll be a lot of energy thrown out. It does burn the shield. Really nice call from C. Leonardo. Jacefen, unfortunately, losing a lot of that energy and having to really play catch up now. These foul plays are definitely going to come through pretty quick, and I don't know that Dragalge is going to have another opportunity to throw an Outrage. Might just have to throw an Aquatail here.
I think he's hoping that this Umbreon is in last resort range. And he can combo play here with this Outrage that he just got to and that last resort.
Ooh, okay.
Or maybe even the Outrage plus a foul play once this Outrage lands. Because the Umbreon doesn't have any shields, but there is a potential catch here on the opposing Dragalge. It comes in, gets the farm down. Sableye comes in. Oh, not sure if that was an overtap or a button issue, but the Sableye getting the move off first. Umbreon comes back in. It's still alive. But not alive enough. And goes down to the second Shadow Claw.
Just watching sort of sad occurrence after sad occurrence in that last little tip there. It's like, oh, the move's there? No. The move's there? No. Nothing.
Just an emotional roller coaster there for C. Leonardo.
And, you know, with this being the start of this sort of like major tournament, it can definitely sort of like get in your head a little bit like, oh man, you know, this obviously being a part of a set of 3 as well. I mean, Jacefen actually did go ahead and get the 2-1 against C. Leonardo. So in this sort of format, it's the 2 players who sort of have the most wins and then tiebreaker the most battles won. Every battle does count. So, you know, getting those 2-1s, you know, C. Leonardo able to clinch 1 game from Jacefen could potentially be really important later on in the tournament. But we'll just have to wait and see how it does unfold as we jump into our next set of matchups here. It is going to be Soyer98 versus Jartavia. And this time we have some new competitors coming to the scene.
Yeah, that's a little spicier looking pickups. And actually, Jartavia, a pretty good situation here with that Ninetales, and there's no Dragalge on Sawyer's team. There's nothing there that resists fire, and there are 2 things there that are double weak to fire. So this may be how do I handle the Ninetales sort of matchup? It feels like Jartavia definitely has a team composition advantage. But you know, these are the best battlers in the world for a reason, and they've gotten there by playing out of these kind of disadvantages regularly in their monthly tournaments and other big events.
Yeah, if anyone can sort of figure out how to play around that Ninetales being that huge threat, one of these battlers is definitely going to be the one to be able to do it there. I guess you could potentially just try and go for, just ignore the steel types, don't even try, but then you've got a little bit of trouble with that Umbreon. You're sort of forced to bring in the double as the sort of counter user, or fighting type fast move user, and then I guess you bring in an Umbreon as a sort of neutral soak mirror match deal.
Yeah, so you can bait out the Escavalier potentially as well, bringing both of those mons that are weak to counter, and then maybe setting that up for then your one of your 2 ghosts to get some advantage.
Yeah, there's definitely some room to sort of. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how they do decide to strategize as they sort of jump into this round, well, still first round of the World Championship tournament here.
And we do see that Dragalge coming out from Jartavia. We do see the Ninetales in the back, as we expected, given how strong a matchup it has across that line. But it's Dragalge versus Sableye. We've seen this a few times before. As Steve mentioned, this is an IV-dependent matchup, depending on some break or bulk points. Often we see the Dragalge here pushing through the first move and then throwing the Aqua Tail just short of the Sableye getting to a second move, keeping its health up. That could have been a return, and so it didn't want to get blown out there, losing all of its energy, using that first shield, and the Sableye lets them move through.
Oh, really nice catch into the Ninetales. So not actually interesting swapping into the Ninetales here, potentially making a call that there isn't going to be this big bug steel presence, and there isn't going to be a need to use the Ninetales. Potentially, just because throwing it out here means that it's not going to be able to line up against exactly what you want. But regardless, has the overheat ready to go, so wouldn't be too surprised seeing the shield come up here to protect it, so it can throw this big amount of energy in a sec.
Throwing on alignment, interesting move here, but coming in now with the weather ball. Didn't get to the overheat in time, so now it's bait with this and then throw the overheat. Opponent recognizing, I don't think you're actually going to throw the move there. No shielding the first weather ball. Maybe saving shields for what's in the back now that the Ninetales is not present. But the overheat comes out. Yep, coffin down. And it's two shielded Umbreon versus Dragalge and Escav. I think that the Jartavia's line here has a little bit of an advantage, even though that Umbreon has a bunch of shields, because there's going to be just a lot of fast move coming out from these Dragon Tails and the counters.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't be super surprised if we ended up seeing some sort of timeout situation with how much spam is going to be seeing in the next minute or so. But we've got the foul play coming into the Dragalge. It does do a fair amount of damage, so Dragalge going to want to try and get this Aqua Tail off just before this next one. It does come through. Just trying to weaken. We're really just trying to chip down this Umbreon. Nothing in this, nothing in Pokemon Go is going to be able to just nuke away an Umbreon. It is just about chipping its health down a little bit by a little bit.
And as the Umbreon, not knowing what that third mon is, it feels bad shielding when you know it's an Aqua Tail, but you know, like, I just don't have that much health left. I need to use these shields eventually. And now the Escav comes in, Umbreon throwing a move here. There's still a potential catch here for Sawyer. There's a second mon still alive, but Escav is just going to do a lot of work with the counters. Going down into the red on this Escavalier. I don't think he can counter down before the Umbreon gets to another one, so it might come down to him needing to catch.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it does throw the drill run safely within the snarl, within the fast move, so knows that it was going to land onto the Umbreon. There's still the shield up on the Umbreon, so uses it there. The Scavalier's getting really low. The Ninetale's getting really low. Interesting swap into Sableye. Maybe just trying to weaken down the Escavalier before the Umbreon comes back in. But now that Umbreon's got energy and Ninetales.
But so does the Ninetales. Ninetales. The Umbreon definitely still tapped there. Wasn't quite at the move yet. But even if it had, this Ninetales win CP. Amazing energy management from Jartavia going down those two shields, but then forcing Sawyer to use his shields on moves that don't do a lot of damage, while that Umbreon just, the health kept going down, and then that move stored at the end, the Ninetales Weather Ball comes in, closes it out.
Yeah, it's sort of similar to those cases where you end up with two shields at the end of the game that you just never used, never really getting into a spot where it seems like this is the perfect time to use it. It's just like,
yeah,
well, I guess I have to, it's going to keep me alive just that little bit longer, and that's really all I can do, especially when he just didn't know what that Pokemon in the back was. No, I don't think there was really anything that was like, I guess Escavalier is probably the Pokemon that was most scary in terms of needing the shield for it, but Mega Horn's quite a move away, so probably not the end of the world regardless. But either way, Jartavia able to take that out and was actually able to take it out again, 2-1. These are some really top tier battlers, so they know what they're doing, and we're seeing 2-1 after 2-1 is sort of coming through here. So again, once we hit the end of the Obsidian meta, we'll sort of recap all of the results so far and see where our battlers are standing. But next up, let's take a look at a new matchup, which is going to be the... Click. Wah! We've got Nesabethan coming up against Maxi. Coming back. Maxi 1 million P. We've seen this team on the right before, and for some reason, Ninja, this team on the left seems terribly familiar.
I feel like we've seen the team on the left too, even though we haven't seen Nesabethan yet. That's kind of weird. Yeah, just full on mind games and player skill when you get into these situations where you sit across and you're like, "Here's my team," and you're like, "Oh, that's my team." Probably one of the teams they've practiced with more than they've practiced against. I know these players do put in a lot of time in practice. But generally you practice like, I think other people will bring these things. This is what I'm bringing. And maybe you don't get as much practice in that exact mirror situation. So it's often pretty interesting when you then end up in that situation in the big dance, in the tournament. And so both teams here rocking those double dragons, rocking the double and the Escavalier as kind of pseudo fighters. And then we've got some dark types, an Umbreon and Sableye there as a dark type, though, that resists that fighting damage. So probably, I feel like every team we've seen with a Sableye on it has felt really good about bringing that Sableye. Even the Umbreon matchup, you have a fair amount of play with that big nuke in return. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see more Sableye action in this one. Maybe another Sableye Dragalge opening. Quite possible.
Yeah, I think that the possibility of that is incredibly high with sort of the neutral power of both of that Sableye and the Dragalge in this meta for sure. But let's jump into it and take a look at what we are going to be seeing here. And we do actually get the Dragalge, but a double in the lead. Not where double wants to be, though. So skirting out of town into the Umbreon. And we'll see whether Maxi wants to throw some energy, weaken this Umbreon down with Dragalge, or potentially wants to make a swap at some point, but with a bit of a desynced switch clock.
Yeah, it wouldn't be unreasonable here to go up to that Outrage, throw an Aqua Tail bait, and then switch into one of your other mons that resist foul play, but actually going for the Outrage. Maxi making the big call here. I want to use my energy. I want to nuke this Umbreon. The Umbreon does shield, though, and it was CMP. So the Dragalge goes down pretty low off of this foul play. I'd be a little surprised if they stay in. They do risk getting farmed down if the Umbreon storing up some energy here. Because the Umbreon feels very comfortable tanking this Aqua Tail if it just throws before that move comes out. But no, it switches here on the very decent timers, full health Umbreon into half health Umbreon.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that Nesabethan probably isn't too far away from being able to swap their Umbreon out of this matchup. So, and there it is, swapping out into what looks like the Escavalier there. So going to be throwing the foul plays, which is going to, it is going to do a fair amount of damage because Escavalier is quite a squishy Pokemon. It can't tank too much. So 2 foul plays plus Snarls is all you're really going to need to take this thing out in the end. But we'll just have to wait and see how these battlers decide to use their shields, because that is really what it's going to come down to as far as who's going to come out on top in this particular matchup.
Yeah, we see that a lot in this meta. Some of these mons that don't have a lot of fast move pressure and throwing a couple moves leaves your opponent in the red. And then it's a choice. Do I want to farm down with this mon, or do I want to let this mon go and farm down with the next one to create an energy advantage going to the back half? But we do... Oh, Umbreon just not able to get that Snarl down.
Oh.
And the SCF has a move loaded. So that's kind of a free catch there in a sense. I think he'd rather the SCF have gone down here, but you don't have to mind game when to swap in later to try to make that catch. You caught the drill run right there. And now you have SCF with 2 shields versus the half health Umbreon and the double. So this is an interesting spot. The SCF a little bit behind on energy here, but letting the first foul play through.
Yeah, I'd say that the double sort of potential for a wild charge could be very scary here. So going to swap into the double. Double is going to be able to get to at least 1 charge move before this Escavalier is able to take it out. Going for the drill run, really trying to just take this thing out, thinking about when they need to throw their charge moves to take out both the double and the Escavalier, and finally taking that last shield as well. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle for Maxi, I feel.
Yeah, I think this double just goes straight body slam from this range, given how low this Escavalier's health is. Doesn't even need to throw a wild charge. Single resisted body slam, still a fair amount of damage. Pretty efficient move, especially with stab from that double. But the Escav here going to keep up the pressure applied with these drill runs. And the double does go down after the 1 drill run lands. Can the Umbreon get to 2 moves before it gets countered down?
Oh,
he gets to the drill run. No counter down necessary. And Maxi closes it out. Just 2 shield, the Escav. And when you look at these teams, it's a strategy that kind of makes sense. Nothing resists the drill run. And so if you can set it up with a little bit of energy lead, some extra shields, as Maxi does there, very, very strong Pokemon for this meta.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that Umbreon must have been close to having that second foul play to be able to sort of close out that matchup. I obviously couldn't see Nesabethan's side of the battle, so not certain, but I feel like it must have been close because it was definitely coming down to the wire there. But Maxi again, second time on stream and able to take out another matchup there. This time, Maxi versus Nesabethan. Breaking the trend, was able to get a 3-0 in that match.
Wow.
So the first non-2-1 in the stream. And I think that does sort of put Maxi in a really strong position. Getting that 2-1 earlier against C. Leonardo? Or was it Azeyrox? I think it was Azeyrox. It was it was Azeyrox. It was the first battle of the stream. And so he's now sort of up 5-1 with 2 wins out of the sort of possible maximum 6 wins. So he's in a pretty good starting position, Maxi there. But regardless, we'll keep it moving and take a look at the next battle in the Obsidian Cup. I know that as we've progressed through, the teams have become more and more and more similar. But I don't think at this point that we can get any more similar. So sort of thinking we might.
All right, going back to Jacevan versus Jartavia, we do see that Ninetales on Jartavia's team, which featured very heavily in his earlier win. But Jacevan does have not 1, but 2 dragons here to try to check that Ninetales. So a little bit riskier pick, even though there are still 2 bug steals on Jacevan's team. Now there's 2 things that resist that fire damage. A little scarier to bring a Ninetales.
Yeah, it's definitely a very different setup. It's still nice that there are the 2 bug steals to sort of hit, but it's going to be a little bit more of a risk. Although in saying that, the game that we saw Ninetales come in before, there were no bug steals in the matchup, but it still did okay. It was able to land that big old overheat. Unfortunately, went for the weather ball bait that wasn't successful because the opponent wasn't shielding regardless. But it's definitely still got some play. But we'll see what these battlers decide to use regardless as we jump into this battle from the Obsidian meta.
And we see an Escav lead into Sableye. So pretty neutral matchup here again. The Sableye does resist these counters. You can see the damage pretty similar between the 2 of them, and they pace to moves about the same time. The Escavalier gets their 1 fast move later than the Sableye. See the Escavalier throwing up the shield here first, and the Sableye is going to have to make a call. Is this Mega Horn? Because they do not want to eat that neutral Mega Horn on the Sableye.
And instantly calling the shield, does not want to get hit by a Mega Horn at all. Is just the drill run though, so still just playing it safe. And Escavalier almost at another Mega Horn, but catching the foul play onto the Umbreon. So much resisted damage. This is a really brilliant catch from Jartavia.
Yeah, and knowing that Umbreon does have that pretty good matchup against almost all the Mons in this meta, in at least the ones, willing to switch in here. And also, this pulls out the Escavalier from his opponent's team because he has that Fortress in the back that also does not want to see that Escav. And so hoping he can get a better matchup here with the Umbreon and then set up maybe a farm down on this Escavalier. But now the Escav from Jacevan going for the Mega Horn, no shield. Goodbye, Umbreon.
Man, trying to play it the other way, but did not get the shield there, holding on. And I feel like at this point, you just have to bring in the Escavalier and sort of try and go for the mirror match. Does have a lot of energy on Jartavia's side, so able to throw the Drew on here before Jacevan has the opportunity to get to a charge move. And Jacevan just going to let it go. Just going to bring something else in to sort of farm down that Escavalier in the back, presumably that Sableye.
Yeah, that's what I would expect here as well, because it does resist the counters. The Sableye does get to another charge move here just before it goes down. Be interesting to see if they opt to shield this to save all that energy. They do. Jacevan throwing up that shield saying, yeah, I'd like to have a Sableye with a move loaded going into the back matchup. And the Escavalier goes down, and I don't think there's much play for the Fortress from here. There's just so much health left on the other team between this and the Umbreon. Even though it's super effective Bug Bites on the Umbreon, it's still not a great matchup. Bug Bite, not that damaging of a move. And I think that was a CMP trying to get that mirror shot off just before the foul play, but CMPing here Oh, nope, didn't get the CMP. Okay, able to save the energy, but pretty close to foul play range, honestly, on this this fortress.
Yeah, unfortunately, even not being CMP, I don't think it's quite saved Jartavia's Fortress here because it has got a lot of work to do against this Umbreon and it just does not have the super effective power to be able to do it in the charge move department. And as you saw from the foul play from Sableye, this foul play, even from a tanky, defense-weighted Umbreon, still does an absolute ton, and it's just going to get, not even going to get snarled down here. Going to get the foul play just for good measure, and that is definitely going to close out this matchup here. Down goes the Fortress.
Yeah, Jace fan not taking any chances there. Have lethal, throw lethal, close out the game, and using that double dark team with that Umbreon and the Sableye there to very strong effect against the bugs from Jartavia.
Yeah, if I recall, the sort of double dark line obviously has popped up in GBL from time to time, but it was also quite popular in the Obsidian Cup when it was sort of running around earlier on in the Silph Arena season. So, definitely sort of a bit of a throwback, even with the sort of new mons on the field. Unfortunately, Fortress, I guess, just isn't much of a dark type counter when you consider that it doesn't have those big charge moves. It's really like, it is Bug, it's got a Bug fast move, but it's more of a sort of coverage mon for the other Pokemon that are around, able to throw, an Earthquake at a Dragalge, for example.
Yeah, it's much better in a situation where it isn't trying to fight the dark type head on, but where it gets to like tank one foul play, but farm down the Umbreon and then threaten that mirror shot bait into Earthquake against some of these other mons. Being head to head against the bulkier Umbreon is just a tough spot for it.
Yeah, exactly. But still able to take it out in the end. And in that Jartavia versus Jace fan matchup, Jace fan was again able to take it back with a 2-1. So, we're back to the 2-1 season. We're still keeping it nice and close. I believe at this point, Jace fan is also. I could be recalling incorrectly here, but I believe it was Jace fan versus C Leonardo actually in that second round. And Jace fan was able to take that one out. So I believe Jace fan is also up 2 wins. Again, we'll sort of confirm those suspicions once Obsidian overall is complete. But we'll jump into the next set of battles here, which is actually it is going to be C Leonardo versus Maxi 1 million P. So these two battlers are coming back again. Again, we've sort of got a slightly different matchups in C Leonardo having the Fortress, while Maxi has the Double, and then we have the Araquanid, where Maxi has the Dragonair. So Maxi's brought in that double Dragon line. C Leonardo has gone for double Bug instead. So we'll see if that does give some assistance. Araquanid are definitely a little bit more of a, both Araquanid and Escavalier, a little bit better anti-dark bugs than Fortress was for sure. But actually, so it is triple Bug on C Leonardo.
It's triple Bug. There's 3 of them there. Yeah. The Escavalier kind of an honorary bug in some sense. Most of its damage is counter, and it usually throws Drill Run, but it does have that, as we saw last game. Sometimes it does throw the Mega Horn, and your Umbreon's really sad about it. We'll actually see how many bugs C Leonardo feels like bringing to this battle. And if Maxi, braves it with his Umbreon or goes something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's, of course, only one way to find out, and that is by jumping straight into the action. So let's take a look and see how these battlers went ahead and did it. And, hey, we're back to the Escavalier versus the Sableye matchup and an instant swap out into Dragalge, going, hey, it's been a while since we've seen Dragalge versus Sableye in the lead, so let's give it a go again.
Yeah, and interesting to see here, it was an ABA bug line from C Leonardo. He has that Fortress in the back and had the Escavalier up front. But shielding up here doesn't want to get returned and completely deleted. Also, a little bit risky to throw to tank even a foul play there. But goes for the big move and the instant shield here from Sableye. Nobody wants to eat this outrage in the opening matchup.
Absolutely not. We see the swap out into Dragalge, which potentially gives Fortress a bit of an opening to come out here. Obviously not going to be in an awesome spot because Earthquake takes quite a while to get to. But I think potentially is more willing to soak up all of this sort of energy from Dragalge onto the Fortress than onto the Escavalier, even with access to that super effective drill run. And doesn't actually have Earthquake, so potentially just going straight mirror shot to take this thing down.
And Dragalge going for the outrage here instead of going for 2 Aqua Tails, an interesting call But it looks like maybe they still get to that and an Aqua Tail. So, forces,
Oh.
by going for that one move, it forces the Fortress to throw here. And see Leonardo wanting to finish this off before he tanks that Aqua Tail, so he can make a little bit use of what's health is left on the Fortress. In the back matchup, we still have that Sableye, and the double probably comes in with the Sable. Nope, goes with the double. And instant switch out into the Escavalier, and then we see Sableye come back out. Back to where we started. These battlers trying to navigate these tricky matchups. Shields the foul play up. Should outpace to a drill run here before the Sableye can get to another move. Probably farms a little bit extra here. Forces a CMP. Beautiful counting by C. Leonardo to CMP this Sableye on this, forcing the last shield out. And we'll see if he wants to shield this and go for a farm down.
Yeah, I mean, Escavalier...
Oh, he doesn't have a shield.
No, not
He doesn't have a shield. Oh, this is going to put him very low.
Yeah.
Escavalier going very low here, not able to farm. The Sableye gets the farm down. And I don't think there's enough health on this Fortress to live a move from the double. So double should come in here, get to a wild charge, and that should be GG.
Yeah, looks like we've got a last-minute attempt to try and get like a debuff from this mirror shot on onto the double, and does get the debuff.
Does get the.
I have a feeling it may not be enough on this wild charge here, though, Ninja.
Yeah, I don't think so. Wild charge, pretty hard-hitting, efficient move, and that Fortress pretty low on hit points.
Yeah,
and down it goes. Another double without payback. Wild charging it up.
Yeah, it sort of seems like it must be wild charge meta. I guess you've got that sort of really big neutral damage coming in where payback is very much more targeted. You've got sort of big win opportunities, big loss opportunities. And as we've sort of seen, there hasn't been a lot of Cofagrigus running around.
No.
Which is sort of the sort of big main target that payback sort of does hit. So potentially wild charge, and obviously wild charge isn't a bad move to throw at a Cofagrigus either.
No.
I suppose I see the logic in wild charge being the sort of big way to go, and it's clearly paying off there. Able to take out that tiny little bit of Fortress health after getting attack debuffed, but still, regardless, able to take that one out. And Maxi versus C. Leonardo was actually also able to take this one out with a 2-1, which means, Ninja, that Maxi is now up 3 games, like 3 matches won. So really on a big tear through the World Championship prelims here, and really got his eyes set on the prize of the ticket to the World Championship Grand Finals. But we've still got a couple more games of Obsidian before we return back to, I think we have exactly 2 games left.
Okay.
Yes, we have 2 games left of Obsidian, so we'll be jumping in to this penultimate Obsidian match with the Azeyrox versus Jartavia. So we've seen both of these battles before. Azeyrox bringing in the relatively spicy Milotic and having that Cofagrigus, with Jartavia also bringing in that Ninetales, although unfortunately even less to target up against Azeyrox's team.
Yeah, only one of those steel bugs here, and the other bug being that water type, it makes it neutral. Still a slightly favorable matchup for Ninetales because the fire damage is neutral and it resists those bug bites. And the water damage from Bubble Beam, it's a little lackluster. That's not a lot of water damage. So a little bit of edge there, but the Milotic definitely a concern for the Ninetales. Although we didn't see the Milotic yet, so we don't know what the moveset on it is to know how comfortable Azeyrox will be bringing against Jartavian's line.
Well, we can, hope and pray that Melodic may sort of grace us with its presence and reveal to us what its secrets may be. But regardless, we will jump into the battle now and see where we've got. And really good lead from Jartavia with the Escavalier into the Umbreon. Quick swap out into the Dragalgate, which is also not a good spot for Azeyrox.
No, he's going to be forced to shield up these drill runs. We'll see if Jartavia wants to shield the Aqua Tail. The damage coming in should be pretty predictable from the Dragalge, the resisted Dragon Tails, the Aqua Tail every 12 turns. And so the Escavalier here able to pace well, throwing in the middle of each Dragon Tail and throwing these drill runs that really the Dragalge kind of has to shield. But opting to switch out of that matchup after 2 moves into Sableye and gets this foul play just before an Outrage can come out. This won't knock out a Dragalge from here, but it'll be interesting to see how Azeyrox responds to this move.
Really interesting swap out from the Escavalier, I suppose, deciding that it must be important for a backline matchup where it sort of preferred to using up the Sableye up against this Dragalge instead, where it actually does have to burn the shield there, trying to protect itself from an outrage perhaps. But we now have another charge move coming in from the Dragalge, which I don't think is an outrage. It is just the Aqua Tail. Brings it down to the red, and now, was going to be able to take it out, but no, here comes the Umbreon instead. So going to throw a return.
This is a pretty big attempted farm down. It's neutral Snarls on a Sableye, but would be a lot of energy on this Umbreon if they go for that. But they might just throw here before the Sableye can get to another move.
Oh,
nope.
my God.
Sableye saves the foul play and switches out again, keeping things moving pretty fast pace here. The Escav able to tank up this foul play, but it won't be able to tank another one. So just catching 2 moves here to save HP on the other Mons. Maybe goes for a farm down of some kind on this Umbreon. Dragalge comes in. That is outrage range, but the number of Dragon Tails it takes you to get there, they're going to get to 2 foul plays.
Yeah, it's going to be close. And we haven't seen Last Resort, I don't believe. So there's always the potential for that Umbreon to be packing Psychic. But I don't think that. I think they would have gone straight for it here with the no shield. So happily keep farming and catching the Aqua Tail onto Dragalge. There are more switches here than a Nintendo store. There's so much going on. Brings resisted Aqua Tail damage. Presumably now just going to Dragon Tail down, and already still has a bunch of energy ready to throw onto Azeyrox.
Tapping middle of the screen, not going for moves. So that Umbreon had a move and came back in here. It might be lights out for this Dragalge. Very interesting. It is the Milotic and it is Dragon Tail. Oh, the damage is just chunking through on this Dragalge from those super effective Dragon Tails. Outrage is going to hurt, but Milotic bulky enough to tank this one on the chin and keep going.
Yeah, it has a foul play on this Sableye, but it's not going to be enough because we'd still have to take out that Umbreon in the back.
Umbreon in the back, yeah. And we do see the Milotic comes out and closes out the game there for Azeyrox.
Yeah, we did. We didn't get to see much in the way of its moveset, but it definitely did do some big damage for Azeyrox, and it was definitely a fun little tidbit to see. But man, that game was sort of hard to follow with so many switches. It was just all going. As soon as the switch timer was up, like both of these battles were like, all right, time to dip. Let's get out of here.
Well, and staying in that first matchup, so the switch timers were off by about half a switch timer. Yeah. 2 charge moves got thrown, then switches out. So then, a couple moves later, then they switch out. And then you're thinking, well, what can I catch here? So a few pretty good catches in that game, but ends up even with that going the way of Azeyrox.
Yeah, I think that is one of the sort of cases that showcases why these are such good battlers, that not only are they sort of able to play around all of these matchups, but they're able to keep track of these matchups. It's like where the energy is, how much HP is left on each of these mons. It's probably one of the sort of, it can be definitely a hard skill to sort of pick up over time. And really takes a lot of sort of, RAM in the memory space to sort of keep tabs on everything and still be able to strategize about what the best play is going to be. So yeah, Azeyrox able to take it out with the Milotic there. And in the end, Azeyrox was also able to take that one out with a 2-1. Jartavia getting 1 win on the board. So Azeyrox getting their first W on the board. Now, actually, unfortunately, there were 2 matchups in the Obsidian Cup that we did not see, and that was
Nesabethan versus Soyer.
Yeah, we didn't get to see Nesabethan versus Soyer, and we didn't get to see Azeyrox versus Soyer. Unfortunately, these 3 battlers were not able to upload their footage. So we can't see either side. So we'll just have to give the results.
We'll just throw the teams up there for you, Chad, and we'll describe what probably happened.
We'll take a guess. We'll pick 3, and then we'll just me and 6'4", we'll just do this sort of chess match where we'll tell each other, I move my Escavalier to the attack mode and throw my drill run. Oh yeah, well I swap to my fortress and catch it on. So with that said, that does bring us to close to the first phase of the prelims, and will bring us. We'll take a look at the bracket.
These standings.
So these are the current standings. So this was Azeyrox able to take out the 2-1 versus Jartavia, losing 1-2 to both Maxi and Soyer. Jartavia able to take out the 1-2, going down 1-2 to both Azeyrox and Jace Fan with a 2-1 versus Soyer. Jays fan taking that 2-1 versus Jartavia and the 2-1 versus C Leonardo. Maxi able to take out wins against all of Azeyrox, Nesabethan, and C Leonardo. Soyer taking out wins against Azeyrox and Nesabethan, but while losing to Jartavia, and C Leonardo being taken down by both Jays fan and Maxi. Now, astute viewers may realize that some of these battlers have 2 games played and some only have 3 games played. And that is because, unfortunately, with Benja Pro dropping from the tournament was built for 8 players, so there is a bye in every single round. So the battlers that have only played twice had a bye in the Obsidian meta, whereas the battlers who have played 3 will have a bye a bit later on in the tournament. So everything will catch up eventually, but at the moment, Maxi has a pretty outstanding lead with 3 games already under his belt.
Yeah, it looks like Maxi and Jay's fan here kind of at the top of the win percentage, if we want to look at it kind of that way. Neither of them having any lost sets yet, and closing out multiple winning sets. Maxi with getting all 3 of those wins. Pretty high grit score in this tournament so far. Only the 2 sweeps out of all these matches.
Yeah, I mean, look, grit score is definitely something that these battlers are sure to know how to play around with. I think that once you get to this level of competition, this level of skill, especially when you're sort of in a meta like Obsidian where everything is so neutral and it comes so much, not so much down to like sort of team-based strategy in, I just need to land this onto this and then I'll win. When it's a bit more, I want to catch a move on here. I'm going to try and throw this onto here. Oh, they've swapped into this. So I'm going to swap into here to try and catch this, or throwing the Aquatail on this, keep energy on this. It's a lot more skill-based. And when you have a bunch of competitors that are sort of similarly high-skilled, you end up getting a lot of really close matches, and that is definitely what we've been seeing so far in the Obsidian meta. But I mean, look, 6-4. I mean, we can continue this on and jump into the next phase of the tournament, which is the Glacial Cup. Now, one thing that wasn't mentioned before is that the 3 metas that Silph has chosen for this World Championships are sort of like slightly different sorts of metas. So the Obsidian Cup meta was one where a specific number of typings were banned. For example, you weren't allowed to bring fairy types. So typings were banned. The Glacial Cup is sort of your classic, what people originally know the Silph Arena for, in being typing-based metas. You can only bring certain types. You can bring ice types, water types. I think it's bug type and ice type.
Dark?
In
Dark is
Glacial.
definitely in here.
In Glacial?
Yeah. I think I'm looking at the Glacial meta. They've got my Crazy Malamar and Xylos are both in here.
Really?
Am I looking at the wrong one? I thought I pulled up this. Nope, you're right. It's poison, psychic, water, dragon. It's dragon. That's the dragon and psychic are in here. That's how I looked at those 2 mons and I was like, those are both dark types. But no, those are both in there because they're secondary typing.
Gotcha.
Dragon, ice, poison, psychic, water. And then they banned some of the bulkier things in those typings, things like Cresselia, Defense Deoxys, Wobbuffet, Altaria, Azumarill. So shout out to some spicier bans. The Alolan Sandshrew was banned in this format, as well as Toxicroak.
Look, Alolan Sandshrew stands are in absolute shambles at the moment. But regardless, we'll jump into the very first battle of the Glacial meta, which is going to be Jay's Fan 55 coming back up against Azeyrox. And this time, shadows are on the table. So we've got a brand new slew of Pokemon to look at. Only one Pokemon we've seen before being that Araquanid. But teams still looking fairly similar to each other.
Of that brand new slew of Pokemon, we still have 4 matching pairs across the table from each other here. That Frostlass, Empoleon, Shadow Beedrill, and Araquanid. But then a little bit different here in their choice of I don't know exactly, like kind of they kind of different roles here between the things. The Lapras kind of a neutral threat, it looks like, across a lot of this meta. And an Abomasnow looks like a pretty spicy pick into some of these other types, but there are water types in the meta. And so the Abomasnow there being a grass type can be a pretty hard check to things like a Whiscash. But I'd be interested to see if that Abomasnow comes out. He looks pretty risky with some of these other picks on the table. And then also we see Azumarill banned, but the other water fairy here, Tapu Fini, legal in this tournament. Shout out to Enhoff. We love Tapu Fini.
Man, I love Fini. And man, we love Anhoff. But regardless, we've definitely got some Finny. I'm not sure if we're going to get the chance to see Finny in this particular matchup. It's just so rough being a water gun user with Surf when there's so many water types that just sort of soak up all of that damage. But there's always the chance. So we'll jump into the battles and take a look at what we do end up seeing here. And it's Beedrill versus Whiscash.
Ooh, that's a pretty big lead for Azeyrox. The Whiscash here resisting Water Gun Lapras coming out here from Jay's Fan, answered by a Araquanid. So Jay's Fan charging up here, 3 energy per turn. Please let me get this Skull Bash. But just behind where this potential Bug Buzz can come out. I imagine the Lapras no shields this one. And the Bug Buzz will do about 40% to the Lapras. And now Jay's Fan gets to ask the question, would you like to shield a Skull Bash? We'll see what Azeyrox's response is here.
Oh, okay. So there was no Bubble Beam debuffing coming from that Araquanid, so just full force Skull Bash. But now you can see that Lapras' health is getting quite low here as it sort of charges, actually decides that he's not going to go all the way for that Skull Bash, just going to go for the Surf before Araquanid has the chance to sort of go for the Bug Buzz to take it out. And not going to do a ton of damage here. Araquanid resisting that and being quite bulky, but Lapras will not have the opportunity to get him out the Surf because Araquanid wants to take it out first.
Yeah, the Araquanid recognizing, I think he's going to get to another Surf here before I can farm this down, and goes for a Bubble Beam. Oh, that I imagine at this level play that is calculated here from Azeyrox, but a really nice setup to get that perfect farm down, be able to start debuffing this next mon. Shadow Beedrill, really essential to it to be doing a lot of damage with its moves because it is not very bulky. And so debuffs here pretty impactful on its ability to do its job in this meta. And that's why you see Jason immediately reaching to swap out. Doesn't want to throw any of that energy while he is missing any full damage. And we get a Araquanid coming in here against a Empoleon and going for a Bubble Beam bait.
Yeah, this is sort of an interesting, a bit of a rough spot potentially for the Araquanid, where Empoleon is very potentially running that Drill Peck that will do a fair amount of damage onto that bug typing on the Araquanid. So burning the shields up here. Meanwhile, Araquanid not really able to do much in the way of big damage back to that Empoleon. I mean, it's got that steel typing, so it doesn't care about the bug too much. So really, it looks like it's just going for these bulk bubble beams to try and bring that attack stat down. And really,
and also to burn. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And also looking to burn timer here because he does have that drill run loaded on his Shadow Beedrill, but looking at the amount of health that has left and the Empoleon still having 2 shields, it's going to be tough even for the Beedrill to kind of get through this because the fast moves just don't apply much pressure.
Yeah. And even past the Empoleon, there is still that Whiscash in the back. Whiscash is going to be an absolute nightmare for this Beedrill to deal with, especially now that Jay's Fan has burned both of the 2 shields. Interestingly, Empoleon actually burning that shield on the Bubble Beam. He's going to be able to get the shieldless Drill Peck off here. Which I suppose very happily sort of bringing, it doesn't actually do much damage at all after all.
But three stages down, that's not a lot of damage. And the Araquanid does, Whiscash has the similar moveset typings to Walrein. And so all of these moves resisted by Araquanid, it's going to give it a chance to apply some debuffs here and then maybe go for a snipe with that Beedrill when the Whiscash is down to drill run range.
Yeah, this might be an opening here for Jay's Fan to sort of be able to sort of outmaneuver Azeyrox's really difficult looking lineup. The Whiscash, losing a fair amount of health here to the fast move from the Whiscash, from the Araquanid alone, tanking a Blizzard. So
Blizzard's the bug down. Straight for the X's are interesting here. Not even enough energy for the drill run, but far enough removed from when those poison jabs happen that maybe the Whiscash doesn't remember. Nope, no shield comes out. Maybe goes for a Mud Bomb here, and then it'll depend on how much energy that Empoleon had left.
Yeah, that Beedrill is not loving the Mud Bomb, and here's the Empoleon. That is a lot of damage. Oh my gosh, able to take out the Empoleon. Is he going to be able to take it out?
And poison jabs out Bull.
Beedrill does it.
Just resist this poison jab damage? Nah, we don't care. Beedrill just poison jabs down the ground type and the steel type. Close that one out. Still a shield left on Azeyrox's side, but Jay's Fan did have that extra move loaded. So if Azeyrox had shielded that X-Scissor, for example, earlier, Fan could have closed it out with a move there as well. Fan just get that energy on that Beedrill, swapped it out, didn't want to play with the Beedrill in debuffed, but then able to bring it back in later to just, finish things off. Beedrill, the closer.
Yeah, with the absolute goat of a bodyguard being that Araquanid, really able to sort of whittle everything down to just enough to turn the tides in Beedrill's favor. I mean, every single one of those sort of Bubble Beam debuffs are really actually made quite a difference there. And I almost wonder if, obviously the Whiscash finished off that Araquanid with a big Blizzard. If they potentially went for sort of Mud Bomb strategies, could things have gone slightly different? Would there have potentially just been an extra Bubble Beam coming through on the Whiscash that would have made things worse anyway?
Yeah, I don't know. The Arachnid being at that much health, maybe there was a chance for the Whiscash to, because Blizzard and 2 Mud Bombs are very similar in energy and damage for Whiscash. So maybe there was a chance there to throw a Mud Bomb, swap out with the Mud Bomb loaded, and bring the Empoleon back in there. Maybe that was a play that could have set up. But these battlers, just insane battle, and glad that they chose that one to show us, because it was emblematic of these championship level battles.
Yeah, that was an absolute blast to watch. But it looks like Fan was able to... Fan was able to take out Azeyrox with a 3-0. Now, that battle definitely didn't make it feel like it was going to be a 3-0 matchup. No. That was so tight. So Azeyrox really, played incredibly well. So really strong performance from both battles, and just such. I'm still giddy. I'm going to be giddy for hours after watching that battle. Absolute
Beedrill, such a beast. I imagine we'll see more of those in some of these upcoming glacial battles as well.
I can only imagine. So let's bring up the next two, which is going to be Nesabethan taking on Jartavia. Nesabethan bringing in that Shadow Beedrill once again, with the Araquanid bodyguard still in play as well. With Jartavia bringing in some different shadows. Nesabethan actually bringing in a different shadow as well.
2 very different looking teams. After seeing a meta where a lot of the teams look the same, seeing that first glacial battle, like, oh, these look kind of the same. These teams, very, very different. We see an Empoleon on both teams, and that's about where it ends. We got Shadow Dragonair and Shadow Gyarados, kind of a similar role, depending on the moveset on the Gyarados, both of them having access to that Shadow Dragon Breath and Aqua Tail, but having different typings defensively. It'll be interesting, especially to see Frostlass. I think Frostlass was one of the top rated mons in this meta and had the highest usage during the original run of Glacial Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how it matches up with some of these newer mons, because I'm not sure if Finny was around on that first run, or if there probably weren't very many of them, even if it was. And then also the addition of Araquanid.
Yeah, definitely a lot of sort of new meta forces are coming into play. And Finny sort of acting as that sort of, as you sort of mentioned earlier, with Azu being booted out, Finny's able to come in and fill that Water Fairy spot that isn't really able to be filled otherwise. So interestingly, I don't think we really had much chance for Finny action in the last one. With no Beedrill on the opposing side, there is a Drapion, but we may have a little bit more room for some Finny action. But we'll just have to wait and see how it does end up playing out as we jump into the battle. Here we go. Ooh.
We saw this matchup before. This one can go quite long, but he immediately swaps out into that Finny and counter swap into Bronzong. So just mostly neutral damage here from both these Pokemon. The Confusions and Psyshock's probably coming out from Bronzong, and Finny with those Water Guns and Surfs. Surf, the more efficient charge move. Confusion, the more efficient fast move. And Bronzong, the slightly bulkier mon. But it may just come down to timing here, because that Finny is going to get to those Surfs a little bit ahead of the Bronzong because it's swapped in second.
Yeah, it may sort of force Jartavia to burn a bit of the shields, but Nesabethan actually just not shielding that Psyshock, so one Confusion, and that would take out the Finny, is going to be up to Jartavia, and no, Jartavia actually deciding to let this Surf come through, let the Bronzong come down, and makes a decision that we've seen a lot through this stream so far in bringing in another Pokemon to get a little bit of farm. With the potential for that Araquanid, definitely might be a nice play to get the opportunity to get some Drill Pecks off early, but we'll see what does come in. It is actually the Mirror Empoleon, which is a really interesting swap in. I mean, it does mean that, like, back lines, Jartavia has the Shadow Gyarados that might line up against that Nesabethan's Araquanid, which could be a pretty good matchup for the Gyarados.
Yeah, and Jartavian, though, needs to be thinking about the fact that if he plays this matchup all the way out and no shields through this, you get your Shadow Gyarados on the Araquanid, but you have no way to clear those debuffs. And so it may be important here to, after he throws maybe this move, to try to get out to that Gyarados so he doesn't just get debuffed into debuffed into debuffed by that Araquanid in the final matchup. The opposing Apollyon lets it go down, and we do get to see Jartavian able to switch out, and that's Dragon Tail Gyarados. That is a legacy move for Gyarados, potentially an elite TM spent on this Shadow Gary to be able to run that in this cup. And then going for that Aqua Tail here first and getting a shield, the first Aqua Tail.
Yeah, so really that did work out quite well in Jartavia's favor in letting the Empoleon go down, keeping both shields for the Araquanid. Going to be shielding up the Bubble Beam, which is like, you kind of just have to do it because Gyarados is such a squishy Pokemon, plus the Shadow Defense bonus. Even though Bubble Beam is not a very high damage move, you can see that Gyarados is losing quite a bit of health to the fast moves alone. So really, it's not being pressured by the Bubble Beams, but it's the right decision to burn the shield there. So just going to go for another Aqua Tail, though, to try and get this last shield out of Nesabethan.
Nesabethan shields up this one as well, recognizing he may get to another Bubble Beam before the Gyarados can get to another move. Oh, but the timer's up. Immediately switch out here. And the catch. Oh, that's just a double whammy there. Jartavia able to clear all those debuffs and tank this move on his Empoleon. The undercharge here from the Araquanid by Nesabethan, but it just isn't going to be enough as this crunch comes through from the Shadow Gyarados. I expect to see that bug roll over and faint.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do much against that just huge jaw that the Gyarados has got just chomping down on that bug-type Araquanid and able to clinch it out in the end. And I think that, look, Araquanid, I wonder if it maybe did just come down to the sort of, obviously this is sort of like caster knowledge when you know everything where all the pieces are on the board. But losing that Empoleon and just sort of having Araquanid have to carry everything with the potential for Jartavia to clear all the debuffs was definitely quite problematic for Nesabethan for sure, and ideally would have gone potentially a slightly different way with that Empoleon.
And also really, I mean, good for Jartavia as well that when because he swapped into the opponent swapped out into the Finny first, and he brought his Bronzong in on it. Yeah. Just to make sure that Finny went down so that it cleared the way for his Gyarados, because that Gyarados definitely has a tough matchup into the Tapu Finny that resists all of its moves. And so being able to get that Finny into farm down range and make sure that it just was out of the way kind of cleared the path for his Gyarados in the closing matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, Jartavia was actually also able to... Oh, no, I've misread. Jartavia took that out with a 2-1. So Nesabethan was able to clinch a win there as well, keeping it nice and gritty, as said before. So we'll jump into the next set here, which is going to be Soyer98 versus Leonardo77. So again, some new, slightly different teams here, and the addition of Mew to the battlefield, which is always a scary one.
Yeah, definitely a Pokemon that can mix it up a lot in these metas. Given the number of water types, kind of expect Mew to be running that Wild Charge moveset. But we also see a Mudboy here, and that makes things pretty complicated for a Mew. But also some different shadows here, the Shadow Drapion, Shadow Dragonair, normal Dragonair coming out from Soyer, opting to have the slightly bulkier version. And I think C. Leonardo is the first team we've seen that doesn't have an Empoleon on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so it's
an interesting omission there.
Being so powerful, not only with the Hydro Cannon, sort of just hitting everything for neutral, but also having access to that Drill Peck for the Araquanid, or as we saw before, that isn't really a sure thing to sort of be able to take it out when there's the potential for so many debuffs to be put up on the table. But regardless, I mean, the Frostlass is something that I'm actually a little surprised that we hadn't seen a bit earlier. Frostlass is quite possibly one of the top 2 Silph Arena darlings, only after Vigoroth potentially. Frostlass is something that can be really, really powerful, even more so when it's in the right hands. These battlers that, as we've seen, are able to sort of switch out, play around a lot of matchups, can get energy advantages in all sorts of places and pull, energy out of a hat and just throw Shadow Balls out of nothing.
I do think this is the matchup we're most likely to see that Frostlass in coming out from Soyer, because C. Leonardo's team only has one water type. Most of the teams we've seen so far have had at least 2 water types, and that makes it a little bit harder for Frostlass when those powder snows are resisted. Takes the edge off because the power of Frostlass is the farm down. It farms down, it has that energy lead, and then it just deletes mons with avalanches or shadow balls. But it's hard to get those farm downs on things like Empoleons and Laprases. So Soyer here having access to that Frostlass, and C. Leonardo only having the Araquanid resisting, and the mirror, but only really resisting in that one matchup. It's a little bit better option here for Soyer with the Frostlass than some of the other ones.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we see that Frostlass come out, and maybe not on the other side, but when there's Frostlass around, there's always the chance to bring it out anyway. So we'll jump into the battle and see how it does end up playing out anyway. And straight away, we've got the Shadow Dragonair into the Quagsire, which is one wacky matchup. Like this can go all sorts of ways. You can see we've got the Body Slam Aquatail, the double spam moveset, but even with that charge, Quagsire's lost a lot of health already.
Yeah, that's a lot of health down already to these Dragon Breaths. It is going straight for that Stone Edge. That wasn't enough to get, not quite enough to get to an Earthquake. And Arachnid swaps in here to try to tank this damage. And the Dragonair obliges, throwing this first Body Slam. That was enough energy. This could be a Dragon Pulse. So we may see a shield from the Arachnid, but we don't. Soyer perfectly happy here to let the Arachnid just soak damage. Oh, and a catch back the other way. This Quagsire coming in.
Look, Dragonair has already managed to take out like over half of this Arachnid and almost half of that Pokemon in the back as well. So there's a lot of damage that's going around here. Quagsire is really just coming in as a bit of a sponge, just trying to soak up, give a little bit of a reprieve until Dragonair comes back out to just destroy everything once again. So Bulk Beam coming through, and then I guess it goes for the Stone Edge eventually. Has to throw.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to 99 energy here before throwing that Stone Edge. Tanks the one Bubble Beam. Won't, I think, affect the lethality of this Stone Edge. And then it'll be a question of if it can get to that second Stone Edge with 2 Mud Shots against the fast move pressure, whatever comes in here from Soyer.
Oh,
well, that's not a lot of fast. That's not a lot of fast move pressure. The Mud Shot's going to give the other Quagsire not able to KO, and the Earthquake coming here out from C. Leonardo gets shielded up, and Dragonair is back to finish what it started.
Yeah, and there is so much energy still stocked up on this Dragonair. So the first Body Slam coming off here, there's still a shield on Sawyer's side, and that was not enough to get it. So a Quagsire going for the move, though, that was CMP, and it's now up to C. Leonardo whether he wants to protect the Dragonair, and he does.
Shields that, goes for, opposing Dragonair comes in, so this will be over quickly, but does get the Body Slam off first, and Soyer is running out of health across his Pokemon. There's still this full health Araquanid sitting in the back of C. Leonardo's line, and a potential catch as well on that Quagsire to make up for the fact that he doesn't have any shields remaining. Oh
my gosh. The Araquanid fast move down. Are we going to see a full fast move down? Oh my god. Oh, C. Leonardo.
Man, those Bug Bites in some of the other matchups have slowly whittled things down. The Empoleons, the Laprases. But those Bug Bites look pretty menacing up against a Dragonair.
Look, I think Arachnid must have just seen how much damage the Dragonair was doing and how quickly, and gone, okay, I guess I better pick up the pace and start putting on damage at that speed. Because that was just wild. I've never seen Arachnid pose that much of a fast move pressure in any game of Pokemon Go. That's pretty wild for sure. Didn't end up seeing the Frostlass though, which is a little bit disappointing. Look, regardless, definitely some really strong. I think it actually calls. I'm reminded of Continental's the World Prelims last year, where Shadow Dragonite in the lead was actually an incredibly powerful Pokemon. You'd throw it in there, you'd put massive pressure on everything with Dragon Breath, you'd force shields out of people or take out their lead Mon. And Shadow Dragonair is sort of, I guess, the spiritual successor to that, the protege, you could say, the little one coming up to do the exact same thing. And so I'm sort of looking forward to Soyer. Hopefully we get to see another match from Soyer in the Glacial Cup, because I think that it could do quite well again.
Especially with that addition of Body Slam to its moveset just recently, that was not present the first time around for this cup, mixing things up a little bit and giving Dragonair that extra edge in some of these matchups that used to be a little more unfavorable for it, where it like had to throw resisted Aqua Tails. Now it can throw neutral body slams. Definitely helps it out. And a body slam just being an efficient move and coming out every 12 turns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Leonardo was actually able to take out the 3-0 against Soyer in this matchup. So putting Leonardo ahead for sure. It looks like now, unfortunately, we do have another matchup that we won't be able to see because there were no recordings available, and that is going to be Azeyrox versus Nesabethan. Nesabethan actually was able to take it out with a 2-1 against Azeyrox, but that is not something we'll be able to see. So there are now 2 more battles to watch in the Glacial Cup. This next one going to be Maxi 1,000,000P versus Jay's Fan 55. 2 battlers who are sort of coming again and again, and we have another new Shadow coming on.
Shadow Celio coming in, another Shadow Pokemon with Body Slam. Maybe there's a theme there, but being a beast, if you've played much Evolution Cup last week, you probably saw a fair amount of Celio, but it's one of the original body spammers, going way back into, I believe that was Silph Season 1. There were some Celio Cups there, but also now a new spicy pick coming out from Maxi 1,000, Maxi 1,000,000, that Hakomo O.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting Pokemon that was certainly not around when the Glacial Cup first came out. I think the Glacial Cup was like a end of 2021 meta, so definitely a very sort of it's been some time, and there's been some time for some new mons, Araquanid included. But Como, I'm not sure whether it's going to have much room to play around when you've got 3 ice types on the other team.
Yeah, it's a pretty risky spot for it, but it does have access to fighting moves, which up shields. You get that farm down with those beefy Dragon Tails. You can close. I think that's why it has played this better, and why we see someone like Maximilian bringing it on his team, because it can close out those situations against even those bad matchups, and that's kind of the hallmark of really solid picks in these Silph metas, right? You oftentimes have no control over getting the exact lead you want, and so being able to get that bad lead, but then manipulate through the match, the timings, your energy, the farm downs, and then be able to get back to that matchup again and go, oh, hi Lapras, now I have close combat. Like, is a pretty good spot to be in. But it'll be interesting to see what both these battlers choose to bring these things. We didn't see any of the Abomasnow last time from Jay's Fan. Maybe that comes out. And Jay's Fan, I do believe that was was that the Water Gun Lapras we saw earlier?
Yes, I believe it was. The Water Gun Lapras was just a really interesting pick. I'm not sure where that comes from, deciding to go with Water Gun over Ice Shard.
It's a little bit better in the Empoleon and Frostlass matchups. Empoleon only single resists the Water Gun, and it does neutral to Frostlass. So if you're expecting to see a lot of Frostlass, which I think most of these players expected to see a lot of Frostlass, then it kind of makes sense to bring that on your Lapras as a little bit harder Frostlass answer. But it seems like most of the games we've seen so far, Frostlass has mostly been a kind of a bench pressure mon.
Yeah, and I suppose also one thing that can always be important, especially in these high stakes matches, is surprising your opponent. If they've sort of like, they've figured everything out, how everything's going to go, they've made these plans, just assuming that you're going to have an Ice Shard Lapras, and the matchups are just slightly different for that Water Gun Lapras, it can definitely throw them off, throw off their plans, and could be enough for you to sort of sneak through and get at least 1 win. And then instead of 3, you only need that 1 more win. So that's always something that could be enticing in this sort of as time has gone on, the ability to bring this sort of spice pick that no one is prepared for is harder and harder as people have become more and more prepared for what the spice picks are. They're looking for their own spice picks. So spice movesets can potentially sort of be that new frontier, and that is definitely one spot where it may be able to happen. Now, obviously, Maximilian is not aware of the Water Gun Lapras scenario, so there is still room for some trip-ups, although, I'm not certain that we're going to see Lapras, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's see what does come in. There we go. Frostlass lead into Empoleon. Empoleon from Maximilian, a pretty solid spot here, and a counter swap into his own Empoleon.
All right, and you can actually see there is a Lapras in the back. Lapras has come. So we will see that Water Gun Lapras gracing the stage eventually a little later. But for now, it's just going to be Penguin v Penguin throwing these Hydro Cannons at each other until one of them eventually decides to burn a shield or faints. Oh, what's that?
Oh, catches a Hydro Cannon on the Celio. And maybe you probably don't even have to shield up this next drill pack. Celio go for a big farm down here, but they might shield this. I think they can powder snow down with 7 more powder snows. And so it should be a pretty big energy lead, but just soaking the damage on his Celio. Maxi saying, well, Celio's, it's the thick thing on this lineup. We have a Beedrill and an Empoleon, so we're going to let Celio do Celio's job.
And Celio's job, it is definitely done there with a ton of energy sort of stocked up here. It's just going to be a question of whether you bring in the Frostlass to try and soak up the potential body slams, and does decide to go that. So Celio forced to sort of go for the higher energy Water Pulse, which isn't a super great move, but is definitely going to do a little bit of damage to this Frostlass, bring it down to almost half health, and may not quite get to another one. Or just is. But the catch.
But catches on the Lapras. Just looking for any advantage they can get in these matchups, right? I don't want to have to use my shield here. I want to save this energy. I can catch this resisted move. And the Water Gun Lapras versus a Shadow Beedrill. Lapras a lot bulkier in this matchup, but definitely slower paced. And the Beedrill's fast move, Poison Jab, doing that extra damage. Lapras shielding up this first X Scissor. And I don't think this is a great spot for Lapras. But they may be able to farm. There's just a lot of health left on Maximilian's team. And Jacefan's health is dwindling quickly. He does have a move loaded on that Frostlass, but only half health on it. And another X's are coming out. Just immaculate counting for Maximilian against these water guns, throwing it on CMP with a Surf. And we'll see how Jacefan wants to, putting it all on the Frostlass.
Not the first time that someone's done that in the Silph Arena. But these Axes are coming in and going to get this last shield out of Jacefan. Jacefan trying to get as much farm as possible, trying to get a ton of energy. Is also going to be quite good at counting, and looks like we'll be able to... Oh, not quite farm down. Oh, no. Beedrill with 1 HP and a Dream hangs on for Maximilian. And Frostlass's dreams of throwing bulk energy at the Pokemon in the back, unfortunately, just crushed under the ice shelf. Really sad.
Shadow Beedrill just doing work even against the bulky picks like Water Gun Lapras and resisted damage situations like Frostlass. Shadow Beedrill, just a monster.
Yeah, it really seems that way. I mean, I look, if no one's built, or if you watching right now have not built your Shadow Beedrill, I think that you probably should, because it is really good in these limited format metas, and it is doing an absolute walloping in these Glacial Cup battles. And Maximilian was actually able to take this out with a 3-0 against Jacefan. I feel like Jacefan's been doing quite well up to now, so able to get that 3-0 up against Jacefan. Actually, I suppose Maximilian has also been doing incredibly well. Not too... I think that's Maximilian's 4th win in a row. So he's up 4-0 at this point. So he's looking pretty good.
Pretty commanding spot going into the back part of the tournament, right? There's four rounds in, 3 to go.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can close it out as well as he started. But yeah, he's been putting in work.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got one last battle in the Glacial Cup, and then we'll take a look at the standings again, see where everyone's up to as we head into the last sort of stretch of the tournament. And last up, we have Jartavia versus C. Leonardo. Again, bringing back these sort of variety of shadows. We've got Bronzongs, we've got Mews, we've got Shadow Drapions. There is a lot of variety here, and I'm sort of excited to see how it's all going to go down.
Yeah, these are definitely 2 of the spicier teams we've seen in this meta, and we saw some of these picks the first time around, the Shadow Gyarados and the Bronzong coming in that first matchup we saw, but not the Shadow Drapion. But now seeing that Mew across the table, the Frostlass, maybe that makes the Drapion a little bit better, but it is kind of concerning as the Drapion to see like a Shadow Beedrill that can one-shot you with a Drill Run, or the Shadow Drapion just building up that energy quickly, but not doing much fast move pressure, being trapped in against something like a Shadow Dragonair with that Shadow Dragon Breath. So be interested to see what Jartavia and C. Leonardo bring here. Maybe we still see Quags from both sides, because that's just kind of a good neutral pick. Quag, just an amazing shield taker in all of these metas. Not much like taking that Edge Quake move set. But we'll see what they bring here for the game they shared with us.
All right, we've got the Shadow Gyarados going to Frostlass, which is not exactly where Shadow Gyarados wants to be. It's not the worst matchup, because you do have access to that super effective crunch, and you are still doing a lot of neutral damage with that Dragon Tail, but these avalanches are going to come really quick and threaten Gyarados quite a lot and really force shields out of Jartavia.
Yeah, these neutral avalanches do a lot of damage to a Shadow Gyarados. As we see him shield up that first move. The Araquanid comes in kind of catching this crunch. I think he saw it coming in and opted to throw that crunch anyways, hoping maybe for a debuff now that the Araquanid's locked in, and then goes to his own Frostlass where he resists these bug bites. No shielding, recognizing, hey, they didn't get to quite enough energy for a bug buzz there. So we'll just tank this first bubble beam and then start unloading some shadow balls on this bug.
Yeah, and I mean, the damage is definitely going to come through. It would have been really nice if that crunch debuff did go through earlier on this Araquanid, but regardless, going to go for the Shadow Ball, bring it down into the very, very low red, but potentially will need to throw an Avalanche to be sure to take this thing out, and that is what Jartavia is going for before that C. Leonardo gets the chance to debuff him any further.
And the Frostlass still has plenty of health here to get to a move, but is debuffed once. I don't think that affects the Frostlass mirror a whole lot. Shadow Ball definitely still lethal from either of these mons at half health. But you see him just reaching straight for that Avalanche, not willing to go up to the Shadow Ball and risk losing CMP. But C. Leonardo still opting to shield this debuffed Avalanche.
Yeah, it really values the Frostlass, wants to keep it around knowing that Gyarados is around. I mean, it does have the Quagsire in the back, so it wouldn't be Quagsire wouldn't be that bad up against the Gyarados either, but still sees the value in having the Frostlass, so goes for that Avalanche and does end up just letting that go through, and now bringing the Gyarados back in to try and take this thing out. But there's an Avalanche ready to go.
Yeah, and do you shield this and then go for a farm down? Looks like that's what he's opting for, but the switch timer is up, and so we immediately see this Quagsire come in. Frostlass has taken all of your shields, and now Quagsire is here with Stone Edge and Earthquake to capitalize on the shieldless situation. That Shadow Drapion is looking very, very afraid if this Quag can close this out. Maybe a catch of the Stone Edge on the Drapion?
Oh my gosh.
These players just right on the edge of their seat, being able to pause for that brief second and then swap out on alignment there so that they can catch that move. And can the Quag get, that's going to be CMP here?
Wow.
Probably lets this Quagsire go. Nope. Shields up the Quagsire, going to try to farm up extra. 1, 2, and then it's, can I get to a Stone Edge before the Gyarados kills me? This is very close.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one for sure. The Drapion goes down. Unfortunately, the Aqua Tail is right there for the Gyarados. There is the Frostlass still in the back, but Gyarados is going to be doing a lot of damage with its Dragon Tails. Is energy dry now? And Frostlass, I don't think it's going to be able to get to an Avalanche here.
2 and 3. Just 2 turns short there of getting that Avalanche. Gyarados farms it down. The Shadow Dragon Tail damage. Too much for the Frostlass. That insane catch of the Stone Edge on the Drapion, setting up the win there for Jartavia.
Yeah, and I mean, Jartavia, actually, oh, well, it looks like Jartavia was actually able to take that one out 3-0 as well. So some big 3-0 sort of closing out the Glacial Cup. But and we did actually see some Frostlass action finally sort of coming through here. We saw the Avalanches sort of being used to KO each other instead of going for the Shadow Ball nukes. The Gyarados sort of again showing the power of the Shadow Dragon damage in the Glacial meta, really bringing Jartavia quite a lot of, I mean, I thought that it was going to be a bit worse for the Frostlass in the lead scenario. I didn't think that Shadow Gyarados could hold up its own so well up against the Frostlass, but it seriously did. Like, you give Gyarados shields, and it gives you a lot of damage in return.
And I think that's maybe why he opted for the Shadow Gyarados instead of, as we've seen on a lot of these other lineups, a Dragonair or Shadow Dragonair, because those mons are taking the super effective damage from these ice types, where Gyarados, the secondary water typing, allows it to be a dragon that takes neutral from the ice type. So a pretty sweet spot for it in the meta.
Yeah, it's interesting that it takes that super effective damage from the flying typing, not the dragon typing, but still takes it in some regard. But that does actually close us out for the Glacial Cup tournament, which means that it is time for another little bit of a bracket. Take a look-see.
Check in.
So we'll see where everyone is up to. So if we just sort of look very macro view and only look at the big wins, we can see that Azeyrox is on 1 win. Jartavia and Jace are both on 3 wins. Maximilian is on 4 wins. Nesabethan is on 1 win. Soyer98 is on 2 wins. And C. Leonardo is on 1 win. So there's a few battlers here that are very well pushing far ahead of the rest. Maximilian, actually, it is worth noting as well that because of the bye, some of these battlers only have 1 battle left. So Jartavia, for example, only has 1 battle left to try and push him up into the 4-win column. Now, only 2 battlers are progressing on to the World Championship Grand Final, so this could sort of end up being quite close, depending on how these matchups end up going. You can actually also see it there that Jartavia's last matchup is against Maximilian, the champion who is sort of just tearing through and has not lost yet, who also has 2 matches left to go. I mean, it's starting to get pretty tight.
Yeah, and having those matchups towards the end when you're kind of in the middle of the pack and you get that chance to play against somebody that's near the top of the pack to try to, pull them down, give you some tiebreaker advantage. Those are a big deal. And so having that opportunity here towards the end for Jartavia, definitely an enticing opportunity, but just having the opportunity doesn't make it happen, right? So these players still have to play these Brawler Cup battles for the last 2 rounds in this I'm going to call this a very unique Silph meta. I don't think we've seen much quite like this.
Oh yeah, Brawler Cup is definitely one of the most unique metas that has sort of come out. It is actually, so initially the very first Silph meta that sort of broke the mold was the Ferocious Cup way back when it was a complete whitelist meta based on some strange restrictions. Things with 4 legs that didn't have a tail, and it was a wild time for sure. And so they've since sort of refined that formula into some the Brawler Cup meta, which was a whitelist slot-based meta. So it combined 2 different sort of features. So in slot 1, there was a whitelist that you had to follow. In slot 2, there was a whitelist of Pokemon you could choose. And same for 3, 4, 5, 6. And these slots were based on their Pokemon Pokedex weights. So it was sort of like boxing classes, how that's separated into weight. So the lightest Pokemon, as per the Pokemon official stats, can be in slot 1, and the heaviest Pokemon go in slot 6. But it is still based on a whitelist meta, so you can't bring in any Pokemon and just slot it in where it goes. It is still whitelist based, and I think if you guys are like me, there were some Pokemon that sort of stood out as a little bit odd in their weight classes.
Okay, what's your favorite? Because I have a favorite weird. How does that weigh that? What's yours?
I almost wonder if mine's quite standard, and I feel like it's got a chance to be similar, and that is Surfetched. Surfetched being an incredibly heavy Pokemon. Somehow, even though it is this tiny little duck with it holding a leek. It's in like
what 5, is that leek made out of?
Apparently it's a big metal stick it's hitting people with leek covering the outside.
Just painted it like a leak.
What's yours?
So mine was, I cannot believe that Greedent is in the lightest weight class. That thing is the chubbiest, thickest squirrel ever. It would not have surprised me if Greedent was like a middle or cruiser weight. Like it's a big old squirrel. But it apparently is a very chubby, very tiny squirrel. So it is still in that lightest weight class.
Yeah, it turns out it's just all air weight that's ready to fill up with berries that it can spit out at a moment's notice. That is definitely also one of the strangest ones out there, because it's made to look nice and chubby and grabbable. I mean, I don't know.
We think of it as being thick because it is also fairly bulky in most of the metas it shows up in, but turns out it's a tiny, lightweight little squirrel. I
mean, what should we expect, Ninja? It's a squirrel. They're tiny little things that scamper up trees. Even the fattest of squirrels aren't going to weigh that much in comparison to a Steelix. So maybe we should have seen it coming. Sorry. But regardless, we're going to be jumping into the very first battle in the Brawler Cup. And again, really coming down to the wire to decide which two are going to be going ahead into the World Championship Grand Finals. First up is going to be Soyer98 versus Maximilian P. So this is sort of Sawyer's last chance to be in the running for the Grand Finals. Really needs to take out a win here up against Maximilian, who is going to be no easy feat. Now, we have the teams here listed in order of the sort of weight classes. So we can see that Greedent hugging that top of the bracket with the smallest weight of the bunch, and Lapras and Steelix. And actually, you can see Surfetch there in the bottom right, also showing itself as an incredibly heavy Pokemon.
It definitely looks heavier than Oranguru and Double. I can see why that's an extra weird one. But also interesting to note, like, coming out of these last two metas, we saw a lot of the same Pokemon, and now we're looking at two teams that have zero overlap.
Yeah.
Zero overlap between these two teams. So these opponents taking very different approaches to what they like out of each of these weight classes to build a team that they still feel like covers all the possible options their opponents can throw at them. Looking at the usage data earlier, the Steelix and Lapras are definitely the two most common heavyweights. We'll see quite a few of those in these battles, but a fair amount of diversity in some of these other spots.
Yeah, I sort of talk about things in terms of a bit of a, when you have a closed meta, there's a little bit of a team building cycle. Wherever you start with one Pokemon and fill a role in a particular slot, you then sort of follow a chain and sort of build up a little bit. You build up with what you can in the remaining slots. So if you sort of put your sort of normal body slammer, Greedent say, in that sort of slot 1, you then sort of build around to fill the other roles that builds yourself in a very different cycle to say if you put Double as your body slammer in slot 3, you sort of have to build around in a very different way. And so you sort of, you can see Maximilians put their flyer in slot 1, Soyer98's put their flyer in slot 3 with the Noctowl. And it sort of just builds a little bit differently in that way as you sort of go through the process, which does land yourself with some very unique teams, which is always an absolute blast to see. But I mean, taking a look at things, I feel like that straight away, the Dragonair from Maximilian, again, as we've sort of seen before, Dragon can be a very oppressive typing, and Lapras is sort of the only main answer here, with a lot of sort of resisted damage heading its way from Ninetales and Venusaur. I'm sort of feeling like Dragonair has a pretty good opportunity to sort of come out here and potentially might force the Lapras to come out to try and answer it.
Yeah, that matchup is a pretty good one, and I almost certainly Ice Shard Lapras in these matchups. I think in this meta, Lapras kind of important to fill that role of like a traditional, in a lot of traditional, it's, you have a pseudo fighter, you have a flyer, an anti-flyer, and then that kind of creates kind of a core for a team. And most of these metas we see, both sides here, we have a flyer, we have kind of an anti-steal, and then we see the Steelix and that Lapras down at the bottom, those heavyweights being kind of the anti-flyers. And so expect Lapras probably Ice Shard in this matchup, and nothing on Maximilian's team resists ice. So I think that there's a pretty good chance we see that Dragonair from Maximilian, but also the Lapras there from Sawyer, and it'll be kind of a who can navigate that lineup to get the matchup they're looking for.
Yeah, I suppose Maximilian does have Surfetched in a fighter role and Double in the sort of pseudo fighter role.
That's true.
Potentially there, presumably there, quite intentionally to sort of bodyguard that Dragonair from the Lapras and put a little bit of pressure back. Surfetched are probably doing a little bit of a better job just with that access to Leaf Blade that doesn't debuff itself like Double's a potential Wild Charge does. Again, this is a meta where it's a new sort of decision. Do you run a Wild Charge? Do you run Payback? There's definitely a lot more Cofagrigus running around. So there might be more reason to run Payback in this meta. So we will just sort of have to wait and see whether that is going to be the case. If we see Double sort of keep on coming out and around. But I mean, regardless, I guess there's only sort of one way to find out, Ninja.
Let's go for it.
All right, so jumping in, we have the Oranguru into the Noctowl. Oranguru showing itself really strong in a recent Silph Arena meta when it freshly joined the scene, but not going to be doing too much. This Noctowl, who now is going to be quite scary with access to Shadow Ball and no shield.
The Shadow Ball here is resisted because that normal typing. So it's +1 -2. And so opting for the Sky Attack there and the Oranguru going up to here just short of the second Sky Attack from the Noctowl and just going for the nuke, not going for that foul play, cheaper move, but going for the Psychic. Noctowl tanking that. These are two pretty bulky normal types, throwing these back and forth. Will he shield this and farm down with Oranguru? Nope, looks like he's letting the Oranguru go down and plans to shield up, to farm up this Noctowl with one of his other mons. Ooh, double coming in. Okay. Double kick coming through. Noctowl, I think we'll get to one more Sky Attack here. Double probably thick enough to feel comfortable tanking this. And he's going to come out of this with a lot of body slams loaded.
Yeah, and we can see that it is the payback double as well. So we'll see if there's a potential for a Cofagrigus, a payback land at some point. Here comes that Venusaur, though, and actually going straight for the payback instead of going for the body slam spam. It's interesting. So I would imagine
that is an interesting choice.
More efficient.
And the shield comes up from Venusaur, so probably, double kicking himself a little bit for that decision. But the Venusaur here able to CMP with this next move from the double, forcing a shield out. Double definitely in range where a Frenzy Plant would take it out. But he still has the Dragonair, so he saves 2 body slams, I think, there. And swaps out to the Dragonair and finds the Lapras.
Yeah, look, this is definitely something that is a risk when you run something that is going to be have the opportunity to be hard countered, getting yourself switch locked in here. But luckily, Dragonair, he does have this access to the neutral body slam to try and get some damage onto this quite bulky Lapras, and he's actually doing not a bad job sort of standing up for itself, Ninja.
And I think it shields up here. Is this? I think that was one short of a Skull Bash. So shielding up this Surf, throwing just short of the second Surf now. The Lapras at 8 Ice Shards. Trying to get the last shield probably to set up this double for a victory, but letting the Lapras go down and saying, no, we're going to ride Venusaur to victory. You can't kill this Venusaur before it can throw 2 moves.
I mean, Dragonair is doing a pretty good job at bringing his health down at the very least. Getting that shield out of Venusaur. The switch time is up, so there is room for a catch here. Oh my gosh, we see the payback come through.
Catch.
So you shielded up my payback before? It's payback time. Mark 2.
Payback double coming in, and that payback does do over half to Venusaur, and Venusaur goes down. So not able to get the farm down or store 2 moves in time. And having access to that 1-turn Dragon Breath, switching in the middle of a Vine Whip, so there was no chance for the Venusaur to respond there to the double coming in and throwing the move.
Yeah, and I mean, I really thought that Maximilian was putting himself in a little bit of a rough spot when he threw that payback, not going for the sort of spammy body slams that aren't going to punish yourself as much when it gets shielded. That I can only imagine that payback is the worst move. Maybe he was trying to protect the opportunity, the potential of having like payback wild charge to maybe try and like scare that Lapras.
Or, I mean, there's also he hadn't seen the 3rd Mon yet, and he's thinking maybe they try to catch this body slam on their Coffin.
Oh.
But that's a pretty brave move, swapping your Coffin into a double. So feels a little unlikely, but it might just be that he knows that it's one here. If he knows that it's 1 body slam and 1 payback for lethal, are they most likely to shield the first move? And he's just making a decision there. Like, they know that I have a bunch of body slams loaded. They think I'm just going to spam out body slams. They're going to save their shield for the later body slams. So I'll just get the big move in first, and then they have to spend their shields on the little moves. But Sawyer making the call, like, no, I don't want to take any damage on my Venusaur right now, and shields up that payback.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely seems to make sense. And I mean, it worked out in Maximilian's favor in the end. Who was actually able to take it out with a 3-0. And Ninja, taking a look at the sort of table, this is secured.
That's all of them. That's all of them. If he won that one, he won all the other ones. He won all of them.
Well, he actually still has a matchup up against Jartavia to go.
Okay.
But he has got 5 wins on the board, and it is impossible for... at the moment, it is only possible for one person to match him. No one can surpass him, which means that Maximilian has secured himself a place in the Silph Arena World Championship Grand Finals next week.
Where's my stamp? I need to stamp his ticket in the Worlds. Congratulations, Maximilian.
I mean, well deserved, by the way, taking out just a ton of absolute incredible battlers without taking a match loss. I mean, I think quite a few 3-0s as well. 3-0 Jace fan, 3-0 Nesabethan, and just 3-0 Sawyer as well. 2-1s against Azeyrox and C. Leonardo. Obviously, we don't know the result up against Jartavia yet, but
We'll find
really
out.
incredible. Quite possibly certainly the best performance of any battler so far. And definitely,
In this pool, definitely, yeah. Just threw down on this pool, and he's going to Worlds. But he still has one matchup left to play, and that matchup may not matter much for him, but it matters a lot for Jartavia, who is currently sitting in kind of the upper middle of the pack and could really use that signature win to try to stamp his ticket as the second player out of the pool. But who do we have up next?
Yeah, so next up, we're going to be taking a look at Nesabethan versus JaceFan55. JaceFan, one of the other battlers who is in that upper echelon, really trying to get that second ticket to the grand finals. And we've got some quite different teams again. There's a lot more similarities this time around. We've got 2 Jumpluffs, 2 doubles, 2 Coffee and 2 Steelixes, but some differences outside of that with the Shadow Walrein and Shadow Dragonair on Nesabethan's side, and the Driftbloom actually coming in alongside the Machamp. And this is actually a little bit of a throwback Ninja, because something that some battlers may not be aware of is in the Silph Arena, there is a Pandemonium badge that is given out to battlers who perform well in a tournament that using a team entirely comprised of Pokemon with less than 5% usage. So it is essentially performing well with a really spicy team. And I actually got the Pandemonium badge in the Brawler Cup using Driftbloom, which is not a Pokemon that is known to be incredibly good in this meta. There's a lot of things that really do threaten it.
We're looking at these teams. There's a normal type. There's a better ghost. There's 2 anti-flyers. It's looking kind of scary for the Driftbloom.
So I'm sort of wondering if Drifbloom may potentially be left at home quite a fair bit. In saying that, if I do recall, slot 2 was a little bit of the sort of forgetful slot, in that I think slot 2 was filled with the most unused picks in the Brawler Cup meta, just by virtue of what is in that weight class in the Pokemon main series. But regardless, we'll see if Drifbloom does end up rearing its head, even though I may have my doubts. But some very interesting teams. So let's just jump into the battle and see how these two do it. And JaceFan are getting the Steelix onto that jumper from the very get-go, which is a pretty decent-ish matchup, especially with that Fairy Wind as the new fast move that is doing resisted damage.
Yeah, Steelix here resisting that Fairy Wind, doing neutral Dragon Tail damage. The Jumpluff forced in this matchup to throw energy balls, which are not as efficient as its Community Day flying type acrobatics. And Steelix here baiting, going for these Psychic Fangs to try to lower the Jumpluff's defense and make it harder and harder for the Jumpluff to keep up in the matchup, and forcing this switch out to a double. And in comes Shadow Machamp.
Yeah, this is not going to be looking very good for Nesabethan at all. I mean, that the Body Slam is going to do a fair bit of damage, but the counter damage is going to do so much more. We will actually get the opportunity to see another Body Slam if this cross chop does get shielded. So we'll see if that is the case. No, just going to let double go. Going to bring in something else to take this Machamp down.
Back in with the Jumpluff to farm it down with the Fairy type move, because that's actually a little bit better in this matchup than when it had Bullet Seed. Gives it a little more pressure. It's not a lot of pressure, but you can see it's working it down. It's going to have to shield up this Rock Slide, but will come out of the matchup with a lot of energy.
Yeah, and Jumpluff can definitely put on a little bit of hurt with all of that energy it does have stocked up, burning that shield, and is now going to be able to Fairy Wind down. Essentially has 4,002 energy stocked up on that Jumpluff and ready to throw at this Steelix coming in. Its charge moves are a little bit more effective than the Fairy Wind fast move. Has access to that energy ball that is going to hurt a fair bit, this Steelix. So there it is. It brings it down to the red and gets the defense Steve.
It's a defense drop. Yes, and Steelix definitely in range here for the next energy ball to come through and be lethal. And so it's just dropping this Psychic Fangs and switches out. I was kind of wondering if he would switch out or stay in and let it go down, but wants to save that Steelix for potential catch later, or if the opponent has something else the Steelix still has a decent matchup with, like perhaps a Dragonair. So double shielding up here, and it's the opposing Steelix. Steelix does not really like being kicked, but the double doesn't. I mean, Payback's a pretty good move. We'll see. I think it's probably 2 of these and a body slam to kill Steelix is quite bulky. Oh no, the double kicks +2 paybacks looks like it'll be about enough. So see if the Steelix goes for a bait here and lowers the defense with Psychic Fangs, or goes for a bigger move. Double no shielding the Psychic Fangs. Brave choice. Second Psychic Fangs coming through, shielding this one up, keeping that double a little bit healthy, but now double debuffed.
Yeah, definitely and very low. Gonna go for the body slam.
Body slam?
Trying to get a shield out of the Steelix? Because there is one shield left, right?
There's still shield in play, yeah. So double baiting that last shield successfully, and then switches into their own Steelix to try to force Nesabethan Steelix to use its energy here, while that double still has a bunch of energy stored up. Nesabethan throws here probably Psychic Fangs on the Steelix.
Oh my gosh.
And switches back to the jump left to catch the crunch. So now the Steelix can get farmed down by the other Steelix. I'm not sure who wins CMP between Steelix and Double. My bet would be Double, but both players now stop tapping. Both of them want to farm down the other one.
I'm not sure
so
what you
we'll
do in
just
this scenario.
Sit here for the timer. The important thing here is whose timer comes up first and how much energy that jump left has. Because if it has a move loaded, Jacefen is in a very tough spot, but the timer is coming back up. Also awkward in this situation because of that. If you stop tapping, sometimes it stops registering your moves. Oh, the jump left just short of getting to a move there.
Wow.
And payback comes out here to kill the Steelix. Yeah, if you stop tapping on your screen, at some point, a couple seconds in, I think it's 2 or 3 seconds in, 6 turns, the game will stop updating what's happening on your screen. It's like, oh, you're not there. We'll stop updating. And so if you just stop tapping, your opponent can wait for a while and then start tapping again. And until you tap, it won't update your health. And so we see there, they both stop tapping for a while. And then the jump off was like, well, I guess I'll farm down, and starts tapping again, gets some kind of farm down against Steelix, but not enough to throw a move into the double.
Yeah, and Double just able to close it out with that payback. But what a finish. I think despite it being like, sort of a regular popular strategy, I don't think I've ever actually seen that happen. The 2 battlers just sitting there standing off, just waiting to try and get the farm on their side of the field. But I guess when you're up in this upper echelon, definitely is a little bit more likely to happen, potentially, you could say. But regardless, Jacefen able to take it out with a 2-1 up against Nesabethan. Which does actually put Jacefen in a pretty strong position where Jacefen now has 4 matchup wins, which is only 1 behind Maximilian and still with a match left to play up against Soyer98. So is either, if he wins up against Soyer in the sort of next time Jacefen comes up to bat, he'll be secured a spot. But if not, if he loses up against Soyer98, then it is then going to be whether someone else can catch up and then also beat him based on tiebreaker, which at this point is still certainly possible. So I will have to wait.
Still
and see.
a lot in the air for these battlers going into even these last couple rounds.
It keeps it nice and stressful, which is how things should be. This is Pokemon Go. This is a video game. It has to be stressful. But we'll jump into the next battle, which is going to be Leonardo77 versus Azeyrox. And again, we have got a wild selection of Pokemon here. Dunsparce coming in slot 2 from Leonardo.
Double was slot 3, right? They're like, I really want to bring Frostlass. What's something that's like Double? Oh, I can bring another normal type that got its moves buffed. And I mean, having that ground rock coverage is a really, really good rollout. Got nerfed a little bit going into this season, but still a pretty strong fast move for energy generation to get to those drill runs and rock slides. And we see, I don't know, there's a Vig over there, but that's, kind of the only thing that looks like it significantly pressures the Dunsparce.
Yeah, Dunsparce good, question mark. Now, one thing that is actually quite different to the Brawler Cup when it was originally played, I actually believe I had it mistaken before, and this was the November 2021 meta. Or I'm getting mistaken again, and it was like February this year. But Brawler Cup originally Charm was allowed, but for this sort of rerun, Charm has been banned specifically. So the Slurpuffs you see on both teams in that slot 1, is not able to be Charm. It is left to either be Fairy Wind or it could be, I believe they have Tackle as well, which is not an unusable move as we've sort of seen, as it's also received the buff. There's certainly some Pokemon running around in Go Battle League using Tackle at the moment, but I would probably stage a guess that they're running Fairy Wind just because they are the Fairy type, they get Stab, and there are some fighters running around that they sort of can get that advantage up against, like Surfetch on C. Leonardo's side, for example. But Tropius is another pick that sort of wildly come in on the wings and could be interesting. Unfortunately, C. Leonardo has brought in 2 ice types.
2 ice types. Yeah. 2 ice types is pretty rough for that. It is still probably one of his better matchups for the Surfetch. Surfetch kind of unlikely to be running Brave Bird, and so Tropius does pretty well against all of Surfetch's other moves, but those 2 ice types pretty scary here for his flyer. And C. Leonardo not bringing a flyer, interestingly, relying on his 2 ghosts and his fairy to deter the counter users to set up his Dunsparce and Lapras.
Yeah, Maximilian is in the chat at the moment, and congratulations again, absolute champion going head to grand finals, and good luck. But he said that he almost brought Dunsparce himself in slot 2 of the Brawler Cup meta. So, look, have to pay some respect to this Dunsparce, especially as you said, when there's not much that might be able to hit it super hard. So let's jump into the battle and take a look as we're really sort of getting down to the final stretch of this tournament. And there it is, straight away. And the Tropius.
And the Tropius, which makes sense. When the Tropius, you're facing several ice types, to have your Tropius in the lead where you can switch it out and protect it, bodyguard it with a couple things. And the Leaf Blades do efficient damage to even these ice types. Frostlass taking about half there. Lapras doesn't really like it either. And then immediately switching out to his Cofagrigus. Can he farm? It looks like, ooh, you can throw Shadow Ball, Avalanche back to back, but you have to be at 100 energy. I think he's at 96. And he's not. Oh, he no-shielded that. He no-shielded that. That could be Shadow Ball. And the Shadow Claw came through that was lethal. That's
what a call from Azeyrox.
This is a pretty devastating position for C. Leonardo to lose essentially 100 energy on a Frostlass. Dark Pulse coming out here because the Shadow Balls are resisted. That is a moveset reveal. No Psychic coming out from Azeyrox. Cofagrigus. Second Dark Pulse coming in. The Dunsparce seeing how much damage the first one did. Feeling pretty comfortable here letting this one through. And it'll just be a question of when he starts using the energy on the Dunsparce.
Yeah, presumably has to start throwing soon because once you hit under 100 energy, you're not getting much benefit out of throwing more rollouts. So goes for the Duron to try and do that big damage onto that Cofagrigus. Not much health left, so able to take it out there. Still 2 shields left on the other side. And interestingly, in comes Unnovan Stunfisk, who is not going to love these drill runs.
Yeah, not much answer here for this Dunsparce. And it's switches out to his own Coffin now that he's up a shield. We saw a lot of this matchup in previous Silph metas as well, the Unova Fisk and the Coffin, and slightly edged to the Coffin here because the more efficient Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball moveset than these. Let's see, that's a Thunder Shock discharge Unova Fisk.
Yeah, and going for the Shadow Ball on this Cofagrigus, not running Psychic, which would be quite nice up against that ground typing, but with the stab, Shadow Ball still doing an absolute buttload up against this Stunfisk. 2 shields still in the bank, so can sort of decide to use them at some point, but there's the first one.
Gets made by Mudbob, saves a little bit energy there for the Unova Fisk. I think that's a 5 energy savings by throwing the Mud Bomb instead of the discharge. But the Atropius comes back in here, and now it gets to decide if it wants to tank any Shadow Balls. 1 Shadow Ball comes through. Tropius takes a lot of damage there. Leaf Blade here, not quite lethal. So it would be, I think, a farm down for this Tropius if he no shields, but he might be able to switch out here and roll out down this Tropius, these super effective rock-type rollouts, and then have, counting perfectly, throwing on CMP. Doesn't want to get Leaf Blade here, saving the shield. And will the Tropius shield to get that last shield? It does.
Okay.
Was CMP. Does the Ufisk have a move? Because these 2 Pokemon are very low, and he is 1 rollout short of that drill run. Oh,
There's
two
the
rolls for it,
rollout.
but gets the farm
move.
down.
Tap, 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 tap. And there
Yep,
we
you see
go.
it.
Stunfisk looks like it did not have a move. And so this draw run is going to go through, take out that Stunfisk, and take out the battle for C. Leonardo.
Dunsparce winning games in Silph World qualifiers, Silph World prelims.
I think that maybe we have to give Dunsparce a little bit more respect, guys. Dunsparce is good. What more is there to say? C. Leonardo actually was able to take out the 3-0 by the looks of it. With the Dunsparce up against Azeyrox. So really, oh, wait, no, I've misread. It was a 2-1. My bad.
Okay. I was about to ask if that meant that if Brawler Cup comes back next year, they need to ban Dunsparce. But if it's only a 2-1, they'll probably allow it to stay in the pool. But just excellent usage with C. Leonardo there, managing the energy on that Dunsparce. And the Tropius trying to do its best, but that ice matchup in the lead and then the rock type damage from the Dunsparce just came up a little bit short.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, we have 3 matches left to go in the Brawler Cup for this entire tournament. So next up, we are actually going to be seeing the Maximilian versus Jartavia. So this is sort of Jartavia is really trying to secure themselves the spot in... actually needs this win. If Jartavia wins this, they still have a shot at the World Championship Grand Finals. If not, they slip just short and will not be able to clinch their ticket. So has to take on like this big champion himself, who is winning so many battles all over the place. Has not been defeated yet. Is Jartavia going to be the first and only to do it?
These two teams do have a lot of diversity. Again, we've seen most of these Mons before, but not up against each other. Maxi with that jump left Dragonair, Dubwool, Oranguru, Surfetched, and Steelix, and Jartavia with the surprisingly light Greedent. Unova Stunfisk, Noctowl, Coffagrigus, Shadow Machamp, and Lapras. The Shadow Machamp, I guess the confusions from Oranguru are a pretty big threat to Shadow Machamp, but it is still hitting the Oranguru for neutral. But just the 2 normal types from Maxi look like they just give quite a bit of problem to Jartavian's lineup.
Yeah, it could actually be incredibly problematic. I mean, look, we've seen that Stunfisk obviously are not too great when there's a sort of a draw run as well, but I mean, maybe there's potential for Stunfisk to sort of come out as the sort of anti-jump off a little bit, anti-Steelix a little bit with the mud bombs, just sort of neutral damage across the board, but I'm not too sure here. It sort of feels like it might be Dragon season yet again.
Yeah, the Dragonair and the Surfetched, super effective against the Greedent, super effective Leaf Blade for Ufisk, super effective Night Slash potentially for the Coffin. Pace is the same as Shadow Machamp, but wins CMP, so that's generally a matchup where Surfetched has an edge as well. And Counter and Leaf Blade for the Lapras, it's really a question of like, can you get the Noctowl on it? The Coffin, also a decent matchup, but that Surfetched really threatening. And even Noctowl taking neutral damage from those stab counters, not a big fan of the matchup. So I kind of expect to see a Surfetched here from Maximilian, but I'm not the one playing in the World Championship qualifiers, and he is currently undefeated in matches. So I'm very interested to see what he brings for his final matchup now that he's already punched his ticket to Worlds.
Yeah, Maxi 5-0 a million, they call him. Now, as we jump into this last battle up against Jartavia, we have the Dragonair going into that Machamp, and you can see that the Surfetched is in the back as well. These Dragon Breaths are doing a lot of damage, but so are these Shadow Counters. They're adding a lot of damage onto these Dragonair, even though they're not any sort of super effective ninja.
Yeah, and the Shadow Machamp here outpacing the Dragonair, getting to each move in 10 turns, where the Dragonair takes 12. And also an interesting here from Maxi, he does have that Surfetched in the back. The back line of Jartavian's line was the Coffin and the Noctowl. So we'll be interested to see if Maxi can dodge these anti-fighters with his Surfetched and get it lined back up maybe on that Machamp and get a farm down of some kind. Double farming up a lot of energy here, willing to tank this second payback as well, recognizing, hey, they have a Shadow Machamp. Any health I have left at the end of this is just farm for that Shadow Machamp. And so trying to get himself a little bit lower, but throwing before that final lethal third Dark Pulse can come out.
Yeah.
Paybacks the Ghost down. And I expect to see the Shadow Machamp. Brings the Noctowl in to try to get some extra farm here.
I guess knowing that it is the payback double and has no risk of being a wild charge double, so Noctowl sort of comfortably being a bulky Pokemon, able to sort of farm this down and get a lot of energy on the way down. He's going to have that Shadow Ball ready to throw up against sort of anything that comes in. I mean, Dragonair isn't going to love even a Sky Attack from the Noctowl, and is sort of predicting that it is going to be that Surf Edge in the back. Nice little swap and throw of the Body Slam into the Noctowl, getting the shield out of Jartavia, but I think that Maximilian has got some thinking to do here.
Interesting choice for Maximilian not to throw back-to-back there as well. Had 2 Body Slams loaded, did not CMP on the last move, but opts to save that energy and start farming a little bit more. Very little health left on this Dragonair, so throws right away. No, I want to farm up extra here. The Machamp going to shield up and farm down. And Shadow Machamp up energy is pretty scary. Did the double have a Body Slam loaded? That's the question here.
I think it might have been a little dry.
Then he's got to come in Surfetched here, tank a move, and hope that he can get one off on that Noctowl as it comes back in. Be very interesting to see Jartavia Switch Timer here. Not definitely. Oh, that damage. The Switch Timer not up, and the Surf Edge, I think that's too low to get one more counter. Resisted Leaf Blade. I don't think this is enough. This is coming down to the wire, though.
Oh, double with low kick?
Yeah, Noctowl pulling that win out at the very end on just a sliver. The Shadow Machamp there just put it in a lot of work, though. The double having kind of that red amount of health left, that 10, 15%, and that Machamp coming in and getting a few counters on it. Definitely a strong play from Jartavia to set up the win in that game.
What? Ninja, does that mean Maximilian has been defeated?
Oh, now he's Maxi 5-1 a million.
Very sad days for sure, but Maximilian sort of happy to give up that one loss now that he's sort of got his ticket punched. And Jartavia now still in the running for the spot in the grand finals. Luckily has not been knocked out, but after battling for the last time, is now going to have to be relying on the result of others, which is also a very scary spot to be in. It's not in your control anymore. It is just dependent on how others play. Specifically, it's going to be a little bit of a case of whether Jay's Fan 55 is able to go up from 4 wins to 5 wins. If Jay's Fan goes up to 5 wins, then Jartavia will not get the ticket to grand finals. If he does not go up to 5 wins, they're at least going to go to tiebreakers and see who's going to be going to the grand finals in that regard. But before we get to that one, I think that. Oh, I've clicked the wrong button. Before we get to that one, we are going to be watching this second last battle of the entire tournament, which is going to be Nesabethan versus C. Leonardo. We've got shadows coming in again from Nesabethan, who seems to love those shadow things, while C. Leonardo has decided to bring none in. C. Leonardo definitely has been performing quite well in this tournament as well, and I believe he's currently at either 2 or maybe about 3 wins. At this point. So not, I think just short of being a contender for the grand finals, unfortunately, but still one of the best battlers in the world, and we'll see how this does end up going. So, I mean, do you want to just jump straight into it? We've got Dunsparce coming in again, which can only mean good things.
Ooh. Wait, we have Dunsparce? Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's jump into it. We've got the Frost Ice into Dragonair, which is not good for Nesabethan at all, and I'm expecting a swap out pretty quick smart.
Maybe tries to catch the Avalanche on something in the back, but switch out from Leonardo here, saying, I have my whole team answers that Dragonair, so I'm just going to switch out here into something else and get an energy lead. And Serpent definitely a mon that has access to a variety of charge moves. We see that energy ball coming out here. Second move is Flamethrower, trying to help it probably against the Steelix that are pretty common in this cup. And Double is going to be spamming Body Slams here because Payback is resisted by the Fairy typing.
Yeah, so now just going to be going up, going for the energy ball, which does have that potential for the defense debuff. Quite a low chance, but it does happen sometimes, and when it does, can definitely help out quite a bit. Brings it down into the red, no defense debuff this time, and at this point, is going to have to make a decision whether Leonardo wants to shield up and farm down, or whether it just wants to take big damage onto the Slurpuff, and it looks like just going to eat that Bog Slam, and actually take some resisted double kick, so probably can Fairy Wind down. Not quite.
Yep, forcing the double to throw another move. Double not being able to take very much energy out of this matchup now, and will get farmed down, but does secure a switch for Nesabethan. But now we get more energy on Frostlass. Oh, Dragonair comes in immediately throwing the move, wins the CMP against Frostlass. Lets this Aqua Tail presumably go. Frostlass now in farm down range by Dragonair, so probably throws this Avalanche and immediately swaps out to Lapras.
Yeah,
Ice Shard down the Dragonair.
Well, what a Dragonair just, you never know.
Dragonair just lets it go, and it's Steelix in the back.
Okay, there's still 2 shields up on both sides, and I think there's probably quite some room for... obviously, Steelix has access to Crunch here, can be getting some debuffs, and Psychic Fangs, of course, as well, going to be putting some defense drops onto this Lapras. But Leonardo has the opportunity to swap out into the Frost at some point to try and clear the debuffs, but the health is going down pretty quick. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to get there.
Yeah, I'm surprised how much damage this Lapras is taking from the Dragon Tails from the Steelix. The Surfs are the main portion of the Lapras's damage going back the other way, and there are those shields in play. So forced to shield up potential Psychic Fangs here doesn't feel good, and still not quite. Timer will be up after he throws this next Surf. That was not CMP. We see the Steelix still animating there, throwing the Dragon Tail. He really needs to get out to clear these debuffs, but also letting the Steelix farm your Frostlass down doesn't feel good. Oh, tried to make a catch there and doesn't quite get it. Wait, what?
Interesting decision. I'm not sure why you don't just throw the Surf.
Yeah, Lapras wins this CMP, but the next Dragon Tail is lethal. So it's just a question of, is this Surf enough?
And the answer is, oh my gosh, it is.
It is.
There you go. So Leonardo making a bit of a big play at the end there just to be like, but I don't think probably could have just gone ahead and hit the Surf and calmly won the game there.
Yeah, a lot of suspense there from both players. Both of them trying to make a catch, not making the catch, and the Lapras still just having enough there. The Shadow, that was Shadow Lapras. The icons.
It was Shadow Lapras. Oh.
Yeah, the Shadow Lapras Surf, just enough damage there to take out a Steelix.
Oh, sorry, I've accidentally just almost closed OBS. OBS is currently active. All streams recordings will be shut down. Are you sure you wish to exit? No, don't exit. Don't exit. I clicked the right button. Stream
we
continues.
Have to recap. we have one more important match and then the recap.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry, OBS. I'm sorry. Okay, but yes, we have one final big match, and this is going to be important. So, again, to remind everyone where we're at, we have Maximilian, who has gone ahead and got his ticket into the grand finals.
5-1.
5-1. Maxi 5-1 million. And now
he's in.
It is just going to be up to Jay's Fan. Jay's Fan and Jartavia are both presently on 4 match wins. If Jay's Fan is able to win and go up to 5 wins, he will guarantee secure himself a spot in the grand finals. If not, though, it is going to purely be down to tiebreakers. And I haven't done the maths here, but they are quite close in battle wins. So I'm not sure which way it would actually go if we end up having to sort of figure out how many. I think that tiebreaker goes battle wins and then it goes to bush holes, I believe.
Okay.
And then from there, I would imagine
it might be head-to-head. Yeah, because everybody played each other once, so it would make sense to use a head-to-head as a tiebreaker, and they're below total wins.
Yeah, but regardless, we'll jump in and take a look at the teams for the very last set here. That's the wrong set. Why am I? Oh, I know what I did. There we go, fixed. We've got Jay's Fan and Sawyer's teams up for the very last time. We've got Jay's Fan team bringing in that Drifblim that I still don't think is going to be doing much. Although you've potentially got a little bit more option now. That you've got
the Venusaur is a pretty decent matchup for it. It's the Noctow's not that great of a matchup. Reden's a pretty bad matchup. Yeah, maybe. If he's really confident about where that Venusaur will be, that's a matchup that you like getting the Drifloon on, because you can debuff it with super effective damage and end that matchup with some extra energy loaded. And throwing an Icy Wind or a Shadow Ball into the next matchup is always a good way to like keep the advantage rolling forward. But there aren't many other matchups where they can create that sort of advantage. Also, Sawyer's team, that Noctowl, that Venusaur, and the Coffin, pretty big deterrents for the Shadow Machamp that we saw really put in work earlier. So it'll be interesting to see if he can still find a spot for that. Double looking pretty neutral across most of this stuff. So I think most of the teams where we've seen there is a double, they like bringing the double. It's a very solid choice for this meta. But it'll be interesting to see what else they pair it up with here in this, deciding game.
Yeah, sorry, just before we jump into it, we've got some clarification in a chat from Maxi51million, who said that it is battle wins and then head-to-head. That is something to keep in mind. So just to take a quick look at that, what was Jay's fan versus Jartavia? Jay's fan did defeat Jartavia 2-1. So it will, for Jartavia, if Jartavia wins and brings them both up to 5...
4. If Jay's fan loses and they're both on 4.
Jay's fan's battling, not Jartavia. My bad. Yeah, if Jay's fan loses and they're both on 4, then it will be battle wins. And if battle wins ends up being equal, then it will go to Jay's fan based on head-to-head. So we'll see how this one does play out as well.
Yeah, there's layers of it here, right? If he wins the match, he's in. If he loses the match, every one of those games might be the game that puts him over the match win tiebreaker.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight here. So we'll see if Jay's fan can do it, and whether Sawyer is going to sort of gatekeep Jay's fan from the grand finals here as we jump into it. And here we go. And Drifloon's actually coming.
It's there. It's here.
Gosh. Wow.
Drifloon, that is an Ember Shadow Ninetales. Shout out to Cindy, regional champion. And we get to this Weather Ball just before the Shadow Ball. Good timing from the Ninetales player. And just letting it go. Drifloon, I don't think gets to 2 moves from here. So willing to just throw a Shadow Ball and let it drop, although also has a chance here to switch out something else to try to preserve. There's the double safe swap. Pretty solid use of double, not much here to punish it. And so, especially with no fighter on Sawyer's team, they got that Venusaur in that slot instead of a Surfetched or a Machamp. And so the double feeling pretty safe here. Tanks a Weather Ball on the double. But running, the double is beefy, but it only has so much health. And down below half now as this Venusaur now comes in on it. The switch timer's about half desynced.
Yeah, so now throwing Body Slam spam into this Venusaur. Venusaur definitely, it's not the bulkiest Pokemon, but it does definitely have some bulk to it. So able to tank 2 of those quite well. Just will not be able to take another one. So here comes the third one. Venusaur will have to shield if it does want to sort of stay alive and throw the Frenzy Plant that will take this double out. And we actually just see Venusaur completely go. So we just watched 3 Body Slams just successfully take that Venusaur down, and Ninetales
just here to absorb energy, I guess.
Pretty much.
Machamp now comes in with 2 shields. The Venusaur is down, so he's just hoping not Coffin, not Noctowl. Shadow Machamp has play against those, but their matchups aren't great. Oh, is another... No, doesn't quite get to another Weather Ball, and it is the Noctowl. Doesn't... Oh, can he get to... It goes for the cross trap bait. Unsure if he can get to 2 Rock Slides here. Wants to make sure he gets some damage in and potentially baiting here to set up the Rock Slide, and does successfully bait, but recognizing he can't live 2 more wing attacks, so he has to throw another cross chop.
Oh, it's going to be tight. Is he going to be able to get to an Icy Wind before a Sky Attack can come through? Does get to the Icy Wind, but is this going to be enough, Ninja?
Noctowl's pretty thick, and this is a non-stab Icy Wind. It's going to be very close. Oh. Noctowl's still alive.
Oh my gosh.
A tie?
One counter, one Sky Attack gets a tie.
So does that actually go down as a 1-1, as a tie in the match sheet?
So it is a match reset. Match did not happen. Redo game 3, I believe.
Well, I'm glad they sent us that one, but that doesn't give us a lot of information about how this matchup played out.
Okay, I may have
get
I may have not revealed my hand entirely, Ninja. We may have a new replacement game.
Production. What is he doing?
we may have replacement tie game, the rematch of the tied game.
Okay.
This is decisive, in fact. This is actually 1-1.
Okay.
They tied the decisive game 3. And so we are now going to game 4, and this game may decide whether JayzFan is going through to the Silph Arena World Championship Grand Finals.
Working air conditioning and a fan because the sweat's running down their hands, their phone screen's damp, pressure in this situation. Let's see how they play out game 3B after that tie. A double lead into a Noctowl. This is a pretty neutral matchup both ways. I think Double's moveset is a little bit more efficient. Body Slam slightly better than Sky Attack. But the Noctowl going to go ahead and throw the first move here. And Double, no shields. Let's just take the Sky Attack. We see the Driftblim in the back again. So JayzFan doing his best to win this game and also make Steve incredibly happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely pretty psyched to see it. We've got the body slams just coming through, slowly whittling down that Noctowl. As you've seen, Double tending to run that payback instead of the wild charge, so no big nuki moves to throw at the Noctowl to bring it right down. Shielding up the Sky Attack to keep Double alive a little bit longer. Has a lot of energy here, so he's going to be able to throw a lot of back-to-back body slams, really just putting that pressure onto Noctowl. So we'll see if there is a decision to shield here to keep Noctowl alive, or if they will do the same thing that we've seen again and again in this tournament, in sort of bringing in something to get a little bit of farm on this Double.
Double did farm up as much energy as it could there before the next Sky Attack comes out, so it does have extra moves loaded. And again, there is no counter user on Sawyer's team, so the Double not in real risk of getting instantly smacked and deleted while it still has this energy. So one body slam comes out, probably throws immediately swaps out to the Driftblim. That's an interesting counter swap here. This isn't a matchup where you would want to throw Icy Winds. Shields up what could be an overheat. The timer is up for Sawyer, so they might be able to switch out here to their last one. Actually ends up baiting with the Icy Wind.
Okay.
Big bait here from JayzFan. Does Sawyer make the call? Oh, that does not feel good. That had been a Shadow Ball, you'd be up an entire Pokemon now. But second Icy Wind coming in, get this Ninetales nice and low, and prevent it from being able to kill you with another Weather Ball. So it has to go for a big move here to get the KO. Or maybe it throws a Weather Ball and dips out. A little unclear, but Sawyer, there's the overheat. Is lethal even with 2 Icy Wind debuffs. And now Steelix comes in to try to farm down, and it's Venusaur in the back. I think the edge is for Venusaur in this matchup, even with the Psychic Fangs. 2 Frenzy Plants, I think, is lethal on a Steelix because those are neutral, and they are a very hard-hitting Community Day move.
Now, there is...
For a catch here.
Yeah, exactly right. There's the chance that the catch comes through, and it would not be the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth catch we've seen today by any means. So I would not be surprised. The room is definitely there for it. We're seeing a Steelix sort of come up for that Psychic Fangs.
Steelix, actually, there's still a shield? Yeah. So he's going to shield this up, and then the Steelix, with the 3-turn move, has an awkward time catching here. Goes for the... But it was one short of a body slam, so the Venusaur actually has to throw here. JayzFan with that incredible energy management, saving that body slam 4 matchups ago. And now the Steelix comes in and farms everything down.
We're going to throw a Psychic Fangs, take out the Ninetales, and...
Yeah, there's not much health left on that Steelix. I think that next Ember probably was lethal. But the Steelix able to get the Psychic Fangs off just in time. And what a decider coming out of that tie into then a 1 HP situation. JayzFan punching his ticket into the 5-win bracket and going to the World Championships.
Yeah, that's really, really impressive job for sure. So this is the sort of final bracket of everyone's results. Oh, I think that I had Super Echo on this scene as opposed to some of the other scenes. I did have a little bit of echo because I think my voice is coming through Ninja's a little bit, but I think on this scene in particular, I had super duper echo, so I apologize for that until right now. But this is the final standings of all of the battlers that went through this tournament. As you can see, there are a lot of 2-1s and 1-2s. This was an incredibly close tournament. All of these battlers played so incredibly well, and there were some such incredibly played games. And with Jay's fan just in the end able to take out that last game and pushing through into the 5-win column right alongside Maximilian. So those two battlers will be going ahead. And I think I did. Hang on, click, and
fancy U1 screen.
Whoa!
Woo!
Huge congratulations to Maximilian P and Jays Fan 55, who will be competing in the World Finals Grand Finals next weekend, which is going to be another it's a really wacky format, Ninja. I don't know if you've seen, but it's a draft, but it's not just any draft. It is going to be a typing draft. So not only do you pick your Pokemon, you make bands. It is also going to be split into phases where your first ban and your first two picks are only allowed to be types of Dragon, Steel, Rock, Fairy, Poison, or Fighting. Your second ban, your round 3 and 4 picks are only typings of Normal, Ghost, Water, Ground, Grass, Flying. And then your third ban and your round 5 and 6 picks are only typings of Dark, Psychic, Bug, Fire, and Ice and Electric. So they've divvied up the typings into the 3 different groups, so you can only bring them in the 2 phases. They've divvied up the bans in a similar format. If something is banned in the first round, say you ban Zwilus, who is because it's the dragon typing, it is allowed in the first phase. Because it has the dark typing, it will still be banned when you get to the third phase when dark will be eligible. So it is just a wild format. It is something that I've certainly never seen or struggle to comprehend myself. But it is going to be really tough for them to sort of build their teams that I believe will be going through over the next week, alongside the other competitors that will be revealed in the some of the upcoming streams. And there will be, I believe, a $1,300 prize pool total that will be spread around.
They'll be playing for?
So there's going to be a lot on the line next week. And of course, the title of Silph Arena World Champion. That is always something nice to sort of have on your little, a badge.
Yeah. It's the third person up onto Silph Rushmore behind Speedy's Chief and Dunebug.
Yeah, exactly right. So I only need one more and we get the full set of 4 heads. But regardless, could it be Maximilian? Could be Jace Fan 55. Or it could be 6 battlers that we are sort of yet to meet. We do actually have the graphic that's...
where can these people find these other incredible games to find out who's going to the championships?
Yeah, so the upcoming streams we're going to see on twitch.tv/Team Rocket PvP over at Team Rocket Academy. We're going to be seeing Group 2. Now, that is in PST. I believe that this is in about 20... It's a day and a couple of hours away from now. I do believe. I think that's right.
That's 27 hours from now.
Yeah, so that's 27 hours from now. Then a little bit later, about 36 hours from now. So a day plus 12 hours, we're going to be seeing over on My PvP Academia. Group 3 is going to be battling it out. And then the next day, at 1 a.m. UTC, I believe it's sort of similar time-ish to now.
Yes, that's... I'm -8, so that's... midnight back 7 hours, 5 p.m. It's about 30 minutes from now, but on Monday.
Yeah, so that will be going on as
no, that's 30 minutes from now, but
on
Sunday for me?
Sunday for Americans. Yeah.
Sunday for Americans.
Is going to be over on Pallet Town PvP as well. So there is a lot of action still to come. And of course, then we'll come up with the big world finals next weekend. Hosted by some Aussie guy. I can't remember his name. It could be anyone. But regardless, I've had an absolute blast casting these battles with you, 6-4. These have been some amazing battles, and I'm incredibly glad that Drifblim was able to come out in the end and actually sort of deliver some goods.
Forcing a tie and then a decisive win. Drifblim punching the ticket to the World Championships.
So if we've learned anything,
Grand
guys,
finals.
it is that Drifblim good and Dunsparce good. So build those Pokemon and, maybe Shadow Beedrill as well. But that might.
Yeah. We guarantee that you can always farm down the steel type with Shadow Beedrill here on Twitch, on youtube.com/PvP Steve.
Yeah, so build your next GBL line in the Great League, which is available now. Is Shadow Beedrill, Dunsparce, Drifblim. Go and win much, guaranteed. I assure you, guarantee that it will be a very good line and it'll perform very well. But 6'4", I mean, now that the stream's over, where can we sort of find you after this?
Well, my name's right up there. I'm the 6'4" ninja because I am 6'4". That's how that's read. And I'm at twitch.tv/the 6'4" ninja Monday through Friday, starting at noon Pacific time. That was about 4.5 hours ago. Monday through Thursday, I do Pokemon Go related things. Friday, I do other stuff. And then I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/the 6'4" ninja. I mostly post Pokemon GIFs. So if you seeing GIFs of Pokemon being happy makes you feel happy, I'm a pretty good follow there. And just appreciate being able to come hang out with Steve, cast these amazing games. A lot of those series just coming down to the wire. The spicy picks, the crazy farm downs, the catches. I'm just looking forward to seeing these other 3 streams and then the World Championships, especially with that the grand finals, especially with that very unique drafting format. Should be a lot of fun and a great way to bring out the best in these battlers to see who can wear the crown.
Yeah, so thanks so much for coming out at 6'4" Ninja. Links are in the description. Head over to 6'4's. I think I've got both his Twitch and his Twitter in there, so give him a follow on both platforms. Both are completely free. Subscribing may not be like it is here. So like, comment, subscribe. But with that said, thank you all for watching. Thanks for coming out, and congratulations again to Maximilian P and JayzFan55, and good luck next weekend. I'm going to be rooting for you. Full bias because we got to watch your battles. So we're in your corner, both of us, guaranteed. You've got us. So thanks for watching.
Until you play each other, and then what are we supposed to do? I don't know.
Cover our eyes and hope for the best. we just cheer. Yes, go. Blind. You've got it. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. And be sure to catch those streams coming out in the next few days because they are sure to be just as hype, just as good, just as many amazing battles, and crown some more future world champions. Potentially. Asterisk, maybe. We'll see. But thanks, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.